Thanks to those joining me live and to those that'll be joining me on archive. Make sure you throw the jab at the like button. Make sure it turns blue if you are listening to this right now on archive. Make sure you do that. And of course, if you're listening live as well, you're tuning in to the fantasy middleweight tournament. And I'm being joined right now at the moment by Stormy B-Man. How's it going, Stormy?
What's good, man? What's good? Thanks for having me. Glad to see you. Hello to everybody that's out there listening.
Yeah, definitely, man. We're going to get this first part of the tournament. We got a lot of great names right here. You guys can see the brackets as we speak. Gennady Golovkin versus Marvin Hagler will be the first matchup, followed by Paul Williams against John Mugabe. Then Canelo Alvarez, Ray Leonard. Jamal Charlo, Roy Jones Jr. Sergio Martinez against James Toney. Winky Wright versus Thomas Hearns was my personal favorite matchup of this first round. Andy Lee against Michael Nunn. And then Kelly Pavlik against Mike McCallum. And of course, after the first round, I think the matchups get very, very interesting, Stormy. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Bruce Ghost is on here. I appreciate the tip there, Big Dog Willie. Much appreciated. And of course, speaking of Big Dog Willie, he did pick the very first matchup. There's a lot of people saying, Stormy, that the new crowd, the new kids in the block are a little outmatched here, but we're going to see if any of them can advance, but I think that says a lot, not about the old school fighters, especially at middleweight. Why do you think the middleweight fighters are so dominant, at least by the onset here?
I think that the middleweights bring everything that fight fans want to see. They have a little bit of it all. They have speed, they have power, they have, typically they have size. And a lot of times in the middleweight divisions, fighters are kind of more leveled as far as being competitive. You don't see a real outstanding dominant guy that just, belittles everybody else or whatever. It's like there are little different adjustments as far as what a guy might bring. Somebody might be a little technically sound, a little bit better, or a little slicker defensively or something, but they are all right there on par. I think that's one of the reasons why even currently in boxing, we want to see so many fights between these guys who are not fighting each other, because we really don't know who's better. We could say, oh, we think, a guy is better or whatever, and we could look at what's on paper. But until they really get in the ring and actually do it, it's like it makes for just speculation, mere speculation. So that's what I think.
Yeah, definitely. And we're also by G Funky 84. What's going on, G Funk?
What's up, man? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Right, cool.
What's up, G Funk?
What's going on, Stormy? Man, guys, I'm just out here enjoying this beautiful California weather,
I see you outside, man. That's good to see, man. Check it out. We're about to start this, man. The first fantasy matchup. Chief, tell us your thoughts about the middleweight division, just in general.
Man, it's a division that's rich in good history, man, in boxing. A lot of the greatest world champions of all time have been in the middleweight division. And it's also been one of those divisions where a lot of guys who dominated the lower classes, like especially welterweight, have moved up and decided to test the waters at 160. See how they do against the guys up there. So there's been a lot of good fights, a lot of great fighters, a lot of great champions in the middleweight division, man. So it's cool, man. I love this little fantasy thing you got going here, man. It opens up a lot of great discussion and a lot of good debate on who would win and who wouldn't and things like that, man. So it's cool, man. I like what you're doing here.
Yeah, man. Let's get this started. We already have Gennady Golovkin in the ring. All right. Okay. Hagler just walked out to the ring. They've made the announcements. The bell's about to ring here. All right. If any Triple G, fans out there, or anyone who just, not necessarily a Triple G fan, but if you feel, I want to hear what you guys got to say. If you feel Hagler should win, I want to hear what you guys got to say. Stormy, start this matchup for us. Gennady Golovkin. Now, by the way, before we continue, all bouts are, 12 rounds, no 3 knockdown rule, like today's rules, pretty much. So we're going to give the new guys, we don't want to have them scheduled for 15 rounds. We're just going to stick to 12. But go ahead and tell us, Stormy, how you think this matchup would go.
Well, even as easy as it is to say what you think the outcome could be here, I do think there would be big drama, and the drama would be that early on, I could see Hagler busting up Triple G, because in fights that he's had before, he's got a little puffy in the face at times, but nobody has really been able to really stand in there and touch him up, like to really do the damage. But I do believe, due to the Marvelous One's fighting style, this would be a fight where Triple G would be at a tremendous disadvantage as far as what his strengths are, because his strengths are hunting and pursuing someone, cautiously and getting his shots in calculatingly. But Hagler, who was always a good boxer as well, but could throw the short shots even better, and he was an inside fighter. So Triple G would be at that disadvantage from medium range and outside, because outside he could be getting outboxed. If Canelo could outbox him, Hagler could. So it's like Hagler would be outboxing him from the outside, plus Hagler can switch from orthodox to southpaw, and that would just further offset Triple G, because he has to be planted to land his power shots, and Hagler's experienced enough to catch him, when he's off balance or when his feet is planted. He could give him an angle and things. And I think I could see cuts opening up on Triple G. He wouldn't go down in a heap very early or anything, but he would sustain a beating. And, I see a middle to late round stoppage here where he wouldn't be able to keep up with the pace that Hagler would set, especially when he might hit Hagler with something really hard to get Hagler's attention. And then that's when Hagler would turn the heat up on him, because he knows that within a certain distance, fighters who are heavy-handed or good punchers, they can't get those shots off and have the same effectiveness from certain distances. That's where experience comes in, because if you're within a certain range and that power isn't the same as when you're at that fighter's advantageous range, that's how you take his strength away from him. And then I also believe that Triple G would think like, man, I can't hurt the guy. And he's worried about that. So it's like, it becomes a psychological thing. His skin is not going to hold up and things like that. And I see Hagler with either a late round TKO, 9th, 10th round, maybe 8th round.
Well said. Stormy has Hagler winning by stoppage mid or late round. We're now being joined by Curtis Anderson. Kurt Sugar, how's it going, bro?
D-Style, what's going on, man? What's going on, everybody? What's up, chat, the panel?
What's happening, man?
What's up, Kurt? How you doing, bro?
Good.
Glad to, have you here, Battle Rifle. I'll be putting links out there, so stay put if you do want to come on. The same with Big Dog Willie and all that. But Curtis, before you tell us what you think about this matchup, because we just started with the first one, tell people your overall thoughts on the middleweight division.
The middleweight division, high profile division. You know, Tiger Flowers, Harry Greb. It's going way back. You know, Sugar Ray Robinson, Charlie Burley, Marcel Cerdan. You know, Tony Zell, Rocky Graciano, Marvin Hagler. I can go on and on and on. It's been a great division, man, for many a year, man. And, you know, it's one of the prestigious, high profile, historically, heavyweight and welterweight, middleweight, you know, lightweight. Those are my favorite divisions. And it's been a gem, man. We had a lot of great fighters. Carlos Monzon from Argentina, you know, Bernard Hopkins, go on, and Marvin Hagler. And, you know, it's great that you have this breakdown fantasy fights.
Most definitely. And take us to this fight. Gennady Golovkin, Hagler in a 12-round bout. How would you see it?
Well, Marvin Hagler, you know, I got to watch in Pennsylvania when I was living in Sharon, Pennsylvania in 78. I was 11, 12-year-old kid. My father took me to the Spectrum, and, you know, he's fighting Benny Briscoe, people like that. And, you know, Marvin Hagler was a technical fighter early on. And after the intervermal robbery, he became a puncher. And then he mixed it up, a boxer, puncher, puncher, boxer. You know, he was an exceptional fighter, man. You know, he could fight at 3 levels, long range, mid level. He was one of the greater pressure fighters and inside fighters I've seen. Probably the fighter with the best chin. You know, Marvin Hagler was a great fighter. Triple G was a good fighter. He really was. But, you know, may have been overrated. Not it may have been. He was overrated. You know, that's because HBO put pressure on him, wanted him to be the guy. You know, I thought Canelo won both fights. You know, this is a bad style matchup for Triple G because, you know, he can't outbox Marvin, so he would come at Marvin, and Marvin had excellent power in both hands and with any punch, and Marvin would hit him multiple times, and Hagler had a stinging jab. You know, Marvin outboxes him. You know, Triple G does have a chin, so I'm gonna give him some rounds, but Marvin will slowly cut him to ribbons. So I like Marvin 10th round take TKO. You know, over Golovkin.
There we go. Another one for Hagler and Chief Funk. How do you see this matchup, man?
Well, I have to concur with the two guys who just spoke, man. I got to give it to Marvin Hagler here. You know, and I'm glad that they went before me because I know people will take their word over mine, but a lot of people don't give Hagler credit for his versatility. You know, not only that, the guy was, I mean, had all-time chins. You know, I remember him saying when he fought Tommy Hearns, he's like, man, you're going to have to hit me with this ring post because I ain't going nowhere tonight. You know, and Tommy hit him with everything but the ring post that night. And Hagler took all his shots, kept coming, and got him out of there. So, I mean, tough guy. Could take shots like nobody's seen. You know, I think he probably has one of the best chins ever in boxing. Power, we know he's got the power. Man, this is just a bad matchup for Triple G, man. You know, Triple G is not a bad fighter. You know, I agree with Stormy and what Kurt said. You know, it's not his fault that he was, you know, hyped up and overrated as he was by HBO. You know, I don't think he was that bad of a fighter, but I don't think he was as good as HBO wanted to make him out to be. He's got some skills too, you know. We see he's got a nice long stiff jab. Does carry power in his hands, but I really think that what Stormy said is something that I think would probably happen in this fight. Is Triple G's face marks up pretty easily. You know, Canelo had him pretty marked up, especially in that second fight. I could see some cuts happening, and you know, if he doesn't slow him down and stop him with punches, man, I see the corner or possibly the doctor stopping this fight, man. from cuts from Marvin Hagler just pounding on this dude because he won't be able to stay away from Hagler. If Hagler wanted to come at him and to go get him, he would not be able to stay away from him, would not be able to keep him off him. So I see his face getting just busted up and it being stopped due to cuts, most likely, I think. So I'm taking the marvelous one here, man, by knockout, probably on cuts, man. That's my take on it.
Well said, you fuck, man. I can see Triple G being in the fight for the first 2-3 rounds, and then something's going to happen. That early in the fight, Hagler's going to make a quick adjustment. And Triple G is not going to make an adjustment because he has one gear. And then Hagler's going to take it up a notch. Every round, it's going to start looking more and more one-sided. So I do believe that Hagler will win this fight. He'll probably stop him. Since it's 12 rounds, I can definitely see the fight ending by, a one-sided kind of affair there, UD. However, someone said in the chat, Hagler was conditioned for 15, probably more than that. And I seen Triple G huffing and puffing in the middle of 12-round fight. That's going to be a problem, going in against Marvin Hagler. So the fact that it's 12 rounds, he's only going to apply even more pressure. He's going to be able to throw more punches. He's going to, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a very devastating Hagler that Triple G is going to have to face. So I got Hagler winning this fight, either UD or a late stoppage. Triple G could take a punch, and he's going to take a lot of them in this fight. So they're probably going to have to stop it for him. But I see him winning. All right, Joe Lopez, 40 ounce. I appreciate the support. Do you guys think Triple G is a Hall of Famer as of right now? All right, that's the super chat. While we answer that, I want the chat. Give me a 1 for Triple G. Give me a 2 for Hagler. And just for kicks, give me how you believe this fight would end. Curtis, let me give this question to you. Do you think Triple G is a Hall of Famer right now?
Well, they letting anybody in here get in, but personally, I would probably say yes because of the how many times he defended his title. The competition may not be up to par, but he'll get in. He'll be a Hall of Famer.
A lot of 2s in the chat. I don't have any 1s. That's all right, man. This is a wash, bro. We don't even have a troll that wants to say 1. Even the trolls are like, I'll pass. But Stormy, in your mind,
just wait until they see the video in archive, man. Then then you'll hear it there.
That's all right. A lot of people are saying brutal KO. Some people saying unanimous decision. Stormy, is he a Hall of Famer in your mind? Triple G.
Well, remember how you're wording that question and what Kurt just said. Right. Do I think he's a Hall of Famer? Absolutely not. But will they make him one? More than likely. There are better fighters than Triple G is presently that didn't make the Hall of Fame, that came before him. Period. Right. End of sentence.
I hear you, man. We're going to go ahead and proceed here. This is a one-sided beatdown by the marvelous one. Okay, Marvin Hagler. Let's go ahead and proceed here. And I do agree, and that's why I worded it that way. Is he going to get in? More than likely. I'm not going to complain about anything like that. But, unfortunately, guys that shouldn't be getting in are getting in my opinion. And it's losing ground. Usually when you talk fighters and you say something like, man, this guy beat 10 Hall of Famers, that should mean something. And unfortunately, that's getting watered down when talking fighters and stuff like that. Okay. Hagler does win. We're going to move on to the next bout. All right. This is Paul the Punisher Williams versus John Mugabe. Let's go ahead and start with Curtis Anderson. How do you see this matchup?
I'm sorry. I was talking to my wife.
Don't take nothing.
Repeat that, D Style.
Yeah, we're gonna go with Paul Williams, John Mugabe. That's the next matchup.
Paul Williams versus John the Beast Mugabe. I'm going with Mugabe before Hagler in his prime when he was knocking out everybody. I think he beats Paul Williams. Paul Williams throws a lot of punches, and Mugabe is a knockout puncher. I think he'll run Paul Williams into something because he was very impressive against Marvin Hagler. Even in a loss, I was very surprised. And I seen Paul Williams get outboxed and seen him get brutally knocked out by Sergio Martinez. And, because he was so offensive minded, so aggressive, throwing punches, sometimes his defense wasn't there and he wasn't hard to hit. Katana beat him. So I like Mugabe by knockout over Paul Williams in 7 rounds.
Well, there you go. Stormy, do you see it any differently?
Paul Williams will be brutally knocked out by John the Beast Mugabe within 3 rounds.
Okay. All right. Similar to like the Martinez knockout, something like that.
Yeah, but probably he was left unconscious by Martinez, I think, with that shot, but he'll be hurt from Mugabe. Mugabe was like slaying guys, man, literally. And Williams didn't have the size or the mass. I mean, he was a tall, reedy guy, but Mugabe was stout, strong. And I just don't think that Williams will be able to contend with him.
Okay. All right. G-Funk, do you see it any differently?
No, unfortunately for Paul Williams, I do not see it any differently. I see Mugabe knocking him out pretty quickly and in brutal fashion. And one thing about Paul Williams is, when he moved up to middleweight, it really wasn't something that he wanted to do. I think most of it was due to because, he wasn't getting fights at welterweight. So his run at middleweight was so-so, I guess. I think he did beat was it Winky Wright there, but that was an older Winky Wright at middleweight. But the thing with Paul Williams is, he's a fighter, and a volume puncher. So when you throw your hands as much as Paul Williams used to throw his hands in fights, you leave yourself open for a lot of opportunities to get hit. And I think that will play right into the beast's hands, man. And he'll get caught with something and he won't wake up for at least 20, 30 seconds. And I see it a knockout for John the Beast Mugabe, man.
Battle Rifle. How's it going, bro?
I'm doing good. How you doing, D-Style, Stormy, Curtis?
What's up, man? How you
What's
doing?
up?
I'm doing good, man. Listening to you guys, man, talking boxing, loving it already.
All right. Talk to us. Well, you said, I don't know if you were just joking or not, or I'm curious. You said you got Paul Williams. Talk to me. Why do you have Paul Williams in his fight?
The more I think about it, it's so weird. And I'm not trolling. It's just for the simple fact that I watched almost all the John Mugabe's fights. And like, it's kind of weird because it's one of those things that we see it sometimes and it's hard to put like our finger on it. Because I remember looking at that fight, and I think John Mugabe has the power, but the fact of the matter is, from what it looked like to me, is that he was chinny. But when I look at the Marvin Hagler fight, he took loads of punishment. He wasn't going down. He was just sitting there in the paint. But when you look at after he got knocked out by John Mugabe, he was getting knocked out like every single time, like he lost. Like it was kind of like Julian Jackson. Like the first time he was knocked out, after that it was just a done deal. So it was kind of hard for me to pick. That's why I picked Paul Williams, because Paul Williams, he threw so much. And like, I think after he got stopped by Marvin Hagler, he got stopped in the first round of his next fight. So it's kind of weird now that I think about it. But, Honestly, I think I just give it to Paul Williams because he's taller, he's rangy, he has the reach, and he throws so many punches that I just don't think that John Mugabe would be able to just get away with just having power. You know what I mean? Like I don't think it would be. I don't think it would just be enough for him just to get away with it. He would have to have like the skills to actually uh, get Paul Williams in the fight that he wants to get him in. He has the skills. Don't get me wrong. It's just that sometimes I think he relied a little bit too much on his power.
Okay, just say a situation where he'll let the fight get away from him.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Well, that's how you have it, man. I'm gonna have to, say this. I think Mugabe wins. While I get the point of Paul Williams threw a lot of punches, Paul Williams also, you know how you say Mugabe relied too much on his power? I think Paul Williams had bigger problems. Paul Williams would give up his height. Paul Williams sometimes threw too many punches, and if you punch with him, you could land on him. And I think that was the main problem with Paul Williams, and he could be outboxed too. I mean, even in Quintana in the first fight, everybody forgets about that fight because he knocked him out in the rematch. But the first fight still happened. I'm not going to get amnesia off of that. I also think the Sergio Martinez close fight, while close, I do think Sergio did outbox him, but that is a close fight. Then he got knocked out, of course. And while I hear the chat, people say, "Nah, but Mugabe is more of a 154 guy." Well, Williams wasn't really a big established middleweight either. You know what I mean? So, excuse me, I'm gonna have to go with Mugabe.
I thought he started off at 160 and then went down after he lost to fight Terry Norris, but I could be wrong.
Well, hold on, man. I don't know what happened. I swear to God, I'm not smoking, guys. But with that said, I have Mugabe winning, but and seen unseen, I appreciate that. Earlier said it was nothing but a massacre for the last fight. Says Mugabe by flatline. Let's go ahead and put it up for a vote. Give me a 1 for Paul Williams. Give me a 2 for John Mugabe, and that will decide the winner of that fight. Reading the chat, it seems pretty clear who's going to win. So we're going to go ahead and proceed here.
Okay, hey, let's not forget, D-Style, that Paul Williams at 147 had a very close and hard-fought fight with Antonio Margarito. And this is not to shit on Margarito or anything like that, but he's really a one-trick pony. You know what he's going to do. He's going to come right at you, and he's very plotting, very slow at times, and he was able to get in there and mix it up and land a lot of shots on Paul Williams, man. So I think Mugabe will catch him with something big, man. That's the only way I see it, man.
I hear you, man. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next bout here, and that's Saul Canelo Alvarez against Sugar Ray Leonard. Of course, this is at middleweight. All right. 12-round matchup. I'm going to start with you, G-Funk. We all know you love Canelo, right? So I just, by the way, whoever made this matchup, post it in the chat. I think it's interesting. People really, gave Canelo and Triple G some tough matches early, but G-Funk, how do you see this matchup at middleweight, 12-round fight?
Oh, man. I think it was AJ 10 who paired these two up in the first round. But, you know what, man? I've been labeled a Canelo hater and things like that just because I give my honest opinion on the guy. I think he is a good fighter, man. I do. He's a real good counter puncher. His defense is the one thing that I think has improved over the years more than anything. His head movement, upper body, side to side kind of movement has gotten a lot better for Canelo. But we've talked about this several times. D-Style, his feet aren't the fastest. Even though he's got the fast hands, he doesn't move his feet very quickly, which I think will be his downfall in this fight here. I think Sugar Ray, would train to be on the move nonstop. and not just because he's afraid, but because it's something that he knows that this guy has an issue with, is the movement. I see Sugar Ray moving. As quick as Canelo's hands are, they're not as fast as Sugar Ray's. And not only that, Sugar Ray, he brought his power up with him as he moved up in weight. So it's not like he's a feather-fisted guy. He's quick and he has power. I see him winning a pretty comfortable decision against Canelo. One thing I give Canelo is, with his defense, he's shown the ability to take a good shot and keep coming. He doesn't really mark up too much, although I do think that he probably will be pretty swole up by the end of this fight. We know Ray Leonard throws quick combinations, can get in and out on you. I see it going a unanimous decision for Sugar Ray Leonard. Although, I mean, hey, he might get a draw, like the Mayweather fight. just joking with that one. But I see Ray Leonard winning this one, man, with the movement, the speed, the boxing. I think it'll be just too much for Canelo, man. So I'm taking Sugar Ray Leonard by unanimous decision.
Well, you said it there, G-Funk. I mean, when people say, but Canelo, his feet aren't fast, he's got fast hands. The problem is Ray Leonard has faster hands than him. You know what I mean? So I see the in and out a lot. The combinations, I don't even see Canelo getting off. Like, I never see him like pulling the trigger really against Sugar Ray. You know what I mean? I just don't see that. So I also pick Sugar Ray Leonard to win this by unanimous decision, wide. And you know what? As bad as the Mayweather fight looked, I think this fight looks even worse for Canelo. I think Sugar Ray Leonard embarrasses Canelo. I think he's too fast. He's too slick. He's going to pot shot the hell out of Canelo. He's going to land blistering combinations on Canelo. And I think he takes it. Curtis Anderson, how do you see this matchup with Canelo and Ray Leonard?
Boy, man, whoever matched these two up, they want to see Canelo and Triple G go home early. It's a bad matchup for Canelo, and Canelo is a damn good fighter. I got him number 3 right now, pound for pound. He improved tremendously since the Mayweather fight, but he has one flaw. The feet. His feet is not the fastest. If you stand in front of him, he's gonna get you. If you move, he's gonna give you. He got problems like Erislandy Lara, and even though Canelo was a different fighter then, he's more of an experienced, well-seasoned fighter. But the footwork, anybody with footwork will give him problems. And Leonard was a master. Boxing master. People kind of forget how special he was, from 79 to 82 when he was a welter. Ray was only the few welterweights that can beat Robinson. He was that special, very special. As a middleweight, he came out of retirement 2.5 years and beat Hagler, caught Hagler at the right time. But his footwork was amazing in that fight. Plus he backed up Hagler a couple of times when he was against the ropes. Ray had a great chin, but his strength was a will to win. He knew how to win, and he beat Canelo by wide unanimous decision. Leonard was just a special fighter, and great footwork, hand speed would do Canelo in, but it's Ray's mind. He had a lot of moxie and savvy. And he knew how to steal rounds. He was the expert at that. And I like Ray, unanimous decision.
Absolutely. And we have Cali Enigma here. How's it going, Cali?
Oh, it's good. What's happening, man?
Man, you missed the Triple G massacre, bro. Like nobody voted.
Yeah, man. You already know what my vote is. So on that one, man, Triple G. I think Triple G gets beat up real bad and eventually stopped, bro. I know Triple G has a beard, but there's multiple ways to stop someone like Triple G, body shot, to things of that nature. So, but I think Triple G eventually gets stopped by Hagler. I think he gets beaten to a pulp. But as far as same thing. Canelo, Canelo has really slow footwork. His footwork is mediocre at best and not really that good. I mean, that's probably one of his only weaknesses. I'm talking about Canelo. Well, stamina as well. Stamina and footwork, man. His footwork just not only is it slow, but his footwork just isn't very good. There's no way in the world he'd be able to deal with Sugar Ray Leonard from the speed, the footwork, man. He would box circles around Canelo Alvarez because of that. It's something that Canelo would try to invite Sugar Ray Leonard in to, trade with him, and Sugar Ray won't take the bait. He'll stay on the outside and just humiliate Canelo Alvarez. Yeah, so yeah, Canelo Alvarez, he'll lose by decision, man. I still give Canelo respect, and I think dude defense is legitimate, man. He really only lost to dudes who just had extreme athleticism and smarts, and it's not a lot of dudes can really beat Canelo. I'm talking about it takes a special type of fighter, man, to beat that dude. So yeah, give the fighters that beat this dude, or at least the fighters that we get. I think multiple fighters beat him, but not very many.
Okay.
But yeah, as far as that, but I'm holding on. I'm sorry, Doc. But yeah, man, you gotta give Canelo. Sugar Ray Leonard by 12-round decision, man. Not trying to hold up. I went on rambling. My bad, bro.
No, you're good, bro. Stormy, how do you see this one, bro?
Well, if Floyd Mayweather at the age of, 30-something, was able to outbox Canelo easily, even though the
36.
scoring on that fight was ridiculous. But Ray Leonard was more talented than Floyd, regardless of people who out there love Floyd and everything. Ray had more heart, more determination, more courage, more moxie. This fight, Canelo gets stopped. And I would consider it a late round stoppage, like 9, 10, something like that. It won't go the distance because that was the other intangible that Ray Leonard had. He was an assassin when he could get someone in trouble. And I see him getting Canelo in trouble because of his movement and catching Canelo with something that Canelo couldn't see or could prepare for. And Ray knew how to pour it on, get the ref to come in and stop it, or put a guy on his back. And lastly, ring IQ. Sugar Ray Leonard was one of the smartest fighters, okay? And he knew how to take a guy apart mentally and physically. So this is no contest. Canelo is out of there.
Man, it's almost unanimous here, but let's see. Battle Rifle, do you see it any differently?
Honestly, no. I think he would. Sugar Ray Leonard doesn't really have as much as as much of a career as much as 160. Yeah, he still beat Marvin Hagler, but I think it would need to be the Sugar Ray Leonard that actually came out of retirement, believe it or not, because that was when he was most motivated. So I think, I would pick it in Sugar Ray Leonard's favor. Even with Canelo's skills, I just think that, like most people say, his feet are a little too slow. And for somebody like Sugar Ray Leonard that could just move the entire 12 and not really get tired, that would just be a little too much for him. So I think I would pick that with Sugar Ray Leonard as well.
All right, chat. Give me a 1 for Saul Canelo Alvarez. Give me a 2 for Sugar Ray Leonard. All right. Go ahead and put that. I think it's pretty clear who's going to advance. All right. So let's go ahead and, proceed here. But that is that. So Gennady Golovkin got eliminated. And it looks like Canelo's on his way out unless there's some miracle voting in the chat for Canelo. I don't see a lot of the Cinnamon fans on the chat anyway. So with that, we're going to move on to this matchup. What's going on here? Hey, Callie, start us off with this one. Roy Jones Jr. Jamal Charlo.
Oh, man, this is humiliation, bro. And Jamal Charlo, like the dude, but dude gets embarrassed, bro. Um, this is why, I have a hard time, saying this can either be a stoppage or an easy 12-round decision. I'm gonna go with an easy 12-round decision. I think that Roy Jones goes around to play around in the fight. I think he's playing around and joking around with Jamal Charlo after 3 rounds, hitting him whenever he wants to, laughing at him, sticking his chin out there, daring him to try to hit him. Yeah, Jamal Charlo loses easily. The footwork, the agility and reflexes will be too much for Jamal Charlo, who's too basic for someone like Roy Jones Jr. Because Jamal Charlo he's a fundamentally sound fighter, but he's basically a 1-2 fighter, man, who has the ability to mix in the hook every now and then. He does have a solid uppercut, but he pretty much just throws 4 punches. That's a pattern that Roy Jones figures out easily and destroys this dude, man. It's not a competitive fight.
Charlie gives it to Roy Jones Jr. Battle Rifles, how do you see this matchup?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I agree with Callie. This is embarrassing. Not a knock on Jamal Charlo. He's just a little too simple style for somebody like Roy Jones and what these guys when they had 3 fights at 160. So I mean, I just don't see him, getting really any really effective shots off on Roy Jones. I think this is just, it's a clear style of Roy Jones beating him soundly on decision.
All right. Stormy B-Man, how do you see this matchup at 160 pounds, 12-round contest?
This is an easy one. It goes one or two ways. Either Roy hits him with something early on and even drops him or hurts him, and the rest of the way, Charlo fights in a shell where he's just protecting himself to survive because of Roy's speed and, he's not being able to gauge it or whatever. Or Roy catches him in the same manner and gets a 7th round knockout because Roy goes shots in. He could catch a guy coming in. Charlo might be his way in behind a jab, and Roy could hit him with that check hook in that right hand, and he go down just like Reggie Johnson did. And Reggie Johnson was a better boxer than Charlo is. So I could see Roy opening him up like a can of sardines.
Well, there you go. Curtis Anderson, you see it any differently?
Nope. Once upon a time, I was real high on Jamal Charlo, man. But that Brandon Adams fight, man, really convinced me that this guy's too basic for somebody like Canelo, and people be like, oh, it'll be Canelo and stuff. And, no, I don't see it that way. Charlo, 1-2, he has a good beard, but basic fighter, nothing special. I just changed my mind. I jumped off the boat, man, and people was trying to tell me, that was a good fight against Brandon Adams. Are you kidding me? He hasn't, advanced to me. He could punch, shotgun jab, but against Roy Jones in his prime at middleweight, man, Roy Jones washes him, 12-round unanimous decision, probably knock him down once or twice. And like Stormy said, Charlo goes into a shell. Not a lot to say. You guys said it. Roy Jones by wide unanimous decision. I mean, wide.
There you go. Chief Funky, do you see it any differently?
No, I don't. Man, one thing about Roy is, geez, man, just at middleweight, the guy was just unbelievable. I mean, the speed, the power, the reflexes, the showmanship. I mean, he had it all, man, at 160. Just an amazing fighter. Yeah, this is not a good matchup for Charlo. I like Charlo. I think he's a good fighter. Unfortunately, we have yet to see him in there with, a true test in his career. So, I mean, wow, put him in there against Roy. Wow, that's yeah. I see him getting counter-shotted, pot-shotted all night long. Maybe even a stoppage, man. I think I would lean towards a stoppage. It would just, man, it would just get ugly, I think, man, as the fight went on. I agree with what Curtis said. I don't think it's a stretch to say that, Canelo could beat him. I give Canelo a good chance to beat Charlo if they were to fight. But man, Roy Jones, that's a whole nother beast, man, especially at 160. So I'm taking Roy Jones with an easy victory here. Possible stoppage, man, on Charlo.
Yeah, I got Roy Jones Jr. dominating this fight. Probably cruises to a decision or some type of, if he doesn't catch him early, probably just cruise the rest of the fight. Give me a 1 for Jermall Charlo. Give me a 2 for Roy Jones Jr. And, man, I'll tell you what, though, this side of the bracket, the next matchups or the next matchup in the bottom part is going to be very, very interesting. All right. What's up to DSFG38? How you doing? Bruce Goes on here. Mr. Doc on here. Chris NWO. I seen the comments, guys, and I appreciate it. But, yes, give me a 1 for Charlo, 2 for Roy Jones Jr. in the chat. Tell me how you vote this. It looks like there's been a bunch of 2s all night long. I don't know if I should get the broom out yet, but hey, let's keep it moving. This was a matchup that Stormy drafted out. Look at this, man. Sergio La Maravilla Martinez against Lights Out James Toney. Curtis Anderson, get us started with this one, man. How do you see this matchup at middleweight?
James Toney is an old school fighter, had one of the best trainers in the history of boxing, Bill Pops Miller. They're truly from the old school. Toney was special, man. You look at the Giroir fight, the Barkley fight, you see him at his absolute best. You look at the Mike McCallum fight, he does everything old school. Sergio Martinez, a really good fighter, man. He showed me a lot. The knockout Paul Williams, beat Chavez, an exciting fight. But Martinez, a good fighter. Toney, a great fighter. And Toney knocks out Martinez somewhere between 9 and 10. I was always high on James Toney, the shoulder roll. One of the best fighters in the middle of the ring. He could slip punches with the very best of him. His shoulder roll is as good as Floyd, if not better. In shape, motivated. I ain't going to say motivated because he has a lot of victories over 60. But James Toney, middleweight versus Martinez, Toney by knockout, I would say in 10. He has a sneaky way. He had a very sneaky right hand. It was quick. You didn't even see it. So I like Toney to land that punch on Martinez. Toney TKO in 10.
There we go. Stormy B-Man, you there, bro?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
I had to switch up on because I was having some signal problems. Sorry about that.
It's all good, man. Talk to us about this fight. You picked this fight, so talk to us about this fight. And is there any reason why you picked it? And was it just random? And how do you see the fight playing out?
It was a random pick, but it was also a pick in mind of, quality fighters fighting each other. It's just that it happens to be that now, hindsight, looking back and reflecting on his career, James Toney is head and shoulders above Martinez. But Martinez was a pretty darn good fighter himself. Fighting at middleweight at the time that when Toney was at middleweight, this would be a bad matchup for Martinez because as a middleweight, Tony was a mean fighter. And it was probably because he had to cut weight to, get down to 160. So he was much meaner at that time. And he was very active at that time. And he fought a variety of opponents with various styles. Martinez included would be a fighter more that he would be inclined to show his skill set. And I could see him stopping this guy. And I notice you guys might say, well, Stormy's talking about guys stopping people a lot. Yes, because we're talking about fighters from an era who were willing to commit. You see, I don't know that Martinez would be willing to commit, hopefully, with Tony, but Tony definitely would. And that's when these guys find out what's inside the opponent. And when he recognizes that he doesn't bring the same type of will, ambition, and incentive to fight, that's when fighters like Tony would really dominate and take over. But I see this as another late round stoppage. Tony did knock out a lot of guys. So, and he had the skill set to set knockouts up. They didn't come just, he threw a right hand or a left hook and he was powerful. No, he set it up because he could jab, he could move, he could counter punch, he could work the body, he could fight on the inside, he could fight on the outside. How diversified was Martinez? Not as much. He was a little bit mobile till he had knee problems, and he had a decent pop on his punch, but you need much more than that to defeat a Hall of Fame fighter like James Toney. So I got Tony, 10th round, TKO.
All right, Stormy's got him winning the man. Sergio Martinez was a guy that, I'm impressed with Sergio, especially since he didn't grow up boxing. This guy was a soccer player and a cyclist, and he was a good athlete, took up the sport, took it very serious, became a student of the game, and I give him all the credit in the world, but there's a difference. And James Toney said this a long time ago. Some guys learn to fight. I was born to fight. And I think that's the main difference here. James Toney's ability to always stay in that center line, always prepared to land a counter punch or a lead punch at any point, would give him the edge in this fight. Early, I do see the movement of Martinez giving him some problems, but at some point he's going to get timed. Martinez also had a tendency of taking rounds off in the middle rounds. That's not a good thing, not against a guy like James Toney. And I do agree with you guys. At some point, something like if a Chavez Jr. caught him late, believe me, James Toney's going to catch him late. I got Tony. Cali Enigma, how do you see it?
Yeah, I see it. I see it as one-sided, decisive fight. I mean, there could be at times where Sergio Martinez might give James Toney problems, but eventually Tony would figure him out and he'd start to break him down with counterpunching, which, of course, this is what Sergio Martinez been unorthodox as he was at times through a lot of wild looping shots. Now, he did. I mean, he didn't come from. He doesn't have a fighter's background, but at the end of the day, you can still tell. You could still tell that he was unorthodox. I thought it was unorthodox, which is what made him effective, too, in my opinion. The fact that he wasn't like everyone else allowed him to go further on the sport than he probably should have gone. I don't think being orthodox is always the right way to go. But at the end of the day, though, James Toney is James Toney. James Toney is just very destructive inside of the pocket. The ability to counter you on the inside. I just think it's a horrible matchup. I think that eventually Sergio Martinez gets broken down and stopped. And I could see it happen even a little bit earlier than the 10 rounds. James Toney in the beginning of the 8th round via knockout.
All right, Battle Rifles. Do you see? How do you see this matchup? 12-round contest. Sergio Martinez, James Toney.
Man, this is interesting because I like Sergio Martinez. The moving to your left, which is James Toney's right. Set up his power shots is going to be very effective. Honestly, I thought about this, and I could see Sergio Martinez winning, but honestly, I just think that even worst case scenario, it would just be James Toney just catching Sergio Martinez with like late round counters, and then it would be enough to drop him. I wouldn't just be so quick to say he just knocks him out like so quickly, but I still think he would stop him though.
Okay. And how do you see it, G Funky? Any different? So should I start bringing out the broom yet or not?
Well, I want to say this, man. James Toney was a hell of a fighter at 160, and just in general, his whole career. The guy went all the way up to heavyweight, and had some amazing fights there. But here at middleweight, man, he was a hell of a fighter. I agree with what Kurt said also when he said about the shoulder roll defense of James Toney is just, man, amazing, especially back then. Now, here's one thing I want to say. Martinez, I liked Martinez a lot. Very unorthodox southpaw. He's a guy who liked to move around the ring, trying to get you to come in so he can counter you. He really relied on his reflexes, almost like a Roy Jones, but not as good as Roy Jones, obviously. But his style was kind of similar. So I could see Martinez, man, giving Toney a little bit of trouble early on in his fight. His movement, his quick hands, could give James Toney some trouble early on. But I think Toney was just a master in there. And I think that he would eventually figure out Martinez. And I'm going to lean more towards a decision. I think, and like you said, D-Style, you brought up a good point. With Martinez, he did take a lot of the mid-rounds off. Now, the one fight that I remember that he didn't actually do that was when he fought Chavez Jr. He fought hard every round, but then he got tired in the late rounds, and that's why he got caught with something big in that 12th round and got knocked down and almost got stopped. He's not going to be able to take any rounds off against the James Lights Out Toney. So I see him picking it up mid-rounds and then probably dominating the fight from there on and winning decision. That's what I see for James Toney.
All right. Chat, give me a 1 for Sergio Martinez. Give me a 2 for James Lights Out Toney. Like James Toney says, he ain't hard to find. All you got to do is dial 1-800-LIGHTS OUT. But shout out to, he's calling out Mike, by the way, Iron Mike, and I would have, I don't know. I think they should stay out of the ring, actually. Bruce goes, I appreciate the support, guys. And absolutely, man, we're here in this quarantine. Man, we're going to find a way to talk boxing, okay? I ain't watching that UFC card tonight, okay, like some of you traders. I'm going to talk boxing tonight, all right? That's right. But anyway, I do believe I went to everybody in the panel, didn't I? Yeah, I did. All right. It's going to be a Toney win. Chief Funky, I'm going to go right back at you for this matchup. Thomas Hitman Hearns versus Ronald Winky Wright. Prime versus Prime, hypothetically at 160 pounds. Can Thomas Hearns get through that defense? Can it pierce through the defense of Winky Wright? How do you see it, Chief Funk?
Man, I think this is a hell of a matchup. This is why I picked this matchup.
I know.
I think it's a good style clash, man. Winky with the high guard and that long jab that he used to throw out there. Thomas Hearns as well had that real sharp long jab followed by that quick right hand. I'm a little bit biased here, man, and I'm just going to go ahead and admit it right away, man. I love Tommy Hearns. He's one of my favorite fighters. I just think that he beats him, man. I think he'll eventually open up or force Winky to open up from that guard because we know Winky, he was most comfortable when he was fighting behind that guard, keeping the hands up. I think that jab will start to open things up for him, and I think eventually that right hand will land somewhere on Winky Wright. And I think he goes out, man. I'm taking Thomas Hearns by knockout, man. And I am biased. I'm just going to say that. I am biased because I love Tommy Hitman Hearns, man. So I'm taking him by knockout.
My grandpa's called him the Cobra. the Cobra, the Motor City Cobra. Curtis Anderson. How do you see this, man? Can Thomas Hearns break down the Winky Wright, high guard defense?
Yeah, Hearns was not an underrated fighter, but he was an underrated boxer. Remember, he outboxed Sugar Ray Leonard twice. The fighters that give Hearns problems are hard-hitting, aggressive fighters. Iran Barkley, Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, when he got aggressive in the later rounds. Even I thought James Kitchen beat Hearns. That was for the WBO title. That was the first WBO title. And Hearns had a bigger name. He knocked Hearns down in that fight, too. Winky doesn't have that power. Winky is a very unique fighter that fights behind a high guard. Doesn't have a lot of power, but he comes forward and put pressure on you and throw that right jab, with repetition over and over again. But that will not be enough to beat Tommy Hearns, the first 4-time and 5-time world champion in boxing history. People forget that when he knocked out Juan Domingo Rodin, and he went up and beat Virgil Hill and Dennis Andrews, and he was knocking people out from welterweight to cruiserweight, 147 to 190. Tommy Hearns, what he did to Duran was unbelievable, and James Schuler. But Tommy can just outbox you. We go look at a fight with Ernie Singletary where he used his footwork. He didn't even try to knock him out. He just boxed the jabbers out of him. I like Winky a lot. He has a soft spot in my heart. I thought it beat Bernard Hopkins in one of the most ugliest fights in history. You did a show about ugly fights or worst fights. That was one of them. I went to sleep, but I thought he beat Jermaine Taylor too. Winky Wright, but he got knocked out early in his career by the guy from Argentina. They always had tough fighters, but I like Hearns by decision. I feel he knocks Winky Wright down maybe once or twice, but Winky, the way he fights, he will survive, and sometimes Hearns just box. So I like Hearns by 12-round wide unanimous decision.
All right. And Stormy B-Man, how do you personally see this matchup? 160, 12 rounds.
Well, Kurt Sugar actually had it on the money as far as how I was looking at it. I got Hearns in a unanimous decision, this time not by stoppage, but I do see Winky being dropped at least twice in this fight because being a southpaw, and Hearns could get that right hand in there, he could set Winky up for a right hand. But Winky was resilient. He'll go down, but he would get up. And he had that defensive shell already. So he would look to survive after feeling that power from Hearns' right hand. But he would still compete. But he would know that he's in deep waters. And Hearns could outbox the best of them. So, and he had the equalizer, which was his right hand. So I could see Hearns winning this, going away. But I expect the drama to be Winky being dropped at least 2 times in the fight. Several rounds apart. He might get dropped early on, getting called like a flash knockdown, and later on, after Hearns really set something up, hit the right hand, and boom, caught him. But he would be resilient enough to get up and fight back. Kurt mentioned that Argentinian that fought him. I don't remember the guy's name, but I remember Winky went down many times against that guy in that fight. Which fight was that, Kurt?
Was it Vasquez?
I was thinking it was Vasquez. Yeah, because he lost that fight by a huge decision, but he went down several times.
5 times, fight. 5.
He got up and kept fighting. That's why I said he would be resilient against Hearns, but he would not win.
That was Julio Cesar Vasquez. Something about those Julio Cesars. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think didn't he get dropped by Vargas?
I don't remember if he got dropped by Vargas, but I know he got beat by him.
I don't think he did. I don't think Vargas knocked him down.
Okay. Battle Rifle, go ahead and give me your thoughts on this matchup, man.
Oh man, like I was leaning a little bit kind of like towards draw territory because I like Winky Wright, but about that matchup with Vasquez. so honestly, I just think it's more leaning towards Hearns. I'm gonna give it to him. It's hard to really put a point on his career with southpaws because I don't think he really fought many. But he still had the length to just give most styles problems. And I think sometimes because Winky Wright, he's kind of a shell fighter. He kind of blocks a little too long, and like those type of combinations where he's really long, I don't think he would be able to effectively get off as good as he usually does. And yeah, he might have success because Hearns keep his hands down, but honestly, I don't think it would be enough. I think Hearns just he would make him reset too much because his height is way too long.
Okay. And Kelly, should I take out the sweep already, or what's going on? Well, how do you see it, Kelly?
I didn't even hear what anybody else picked. I'm assuming that everybody picked Tommy Hearns, man. I just got through talking to my friend, and some dude got fucking ate up by a shark today in Aptos, California today, bro. So that's what I was like. This is crazy. I told you. I tell you about Santa Cruz, man. You got great white problem over that way, man. If you know anything about Santa Cruz, man, there's a lot of great white sharks over there.
There's a lot of marine life close to the shore, man, out there in Santa Cruz. You got to be careful.
Yeah, man.
Are you sure? Are you sure you didn't see the Triple G Hagler fight? Did he confuse it with that?
Man, it's sad, bro. It's like, bro, but I never fuck with that area, bro. I ain't gonna lie. I never go in the water over there at Santa Cruz, man. And it's all kind of great white swimming over there, and motherfuckers just every year somebody get an arm or something bit off over there or something, bro. People don't learn. Like, oh, I don't give a fuck, dude. I'm gonna go out there. I know I lost my arm last year. Fuck it. I'm gonna risk it again. That's see, I wouldn't know way I would do that. But yeah, man, I would pick Tommy Hearns, man. I think Tommy Hearns would eventually penetrate the very, very, very stiff defense of Winky Wright. I think that jab followed by the right hand, which Tommy Hearns at times had the ability to punch through the guard. I think that Tommy Hearns' right hand would punch through the guard and put Winky Wright on his ass. And I think that he would actually stop Winky Wright late. 11-round stoppage. Tommy Hearns by knockout, man, over Winky Wright.
Man. Well, I guess we could call it a sweep. I think Thomas Hearns, like the big thing, like, for example, did Thomas Hearns have a punch? Yes. You know what I mean? The guy could hit hard. But people do forget how good of a boxer he was. So someone might look at, oh, but look how he did against Trinidad. Well, it's not the same thing. So I think Thomas Hearns wins. And I agree. I think he does pierce through that peekaboo defense, and I do think he knocks Winky Wright out. Probably either mid or late rounds. I think Wright does okay though for the first 4 rounds or so. I think he does all right. But I'm gonna have to go go with that, right? And Chief Funk, I hear you, bro, but I do want to thank you for jumping on, man. All right.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for having me, bro. I appreciate it. I'm on here all the time, man. So I don't want to be selfish. I'll let somebody else jump in from the chat who wants to chime in on these matchups. I'll be listening though, man. But thanks. It's good to be on here with you, Callie, Stormy B, man, and Kurt Sugar and the Battle Rifle, man. It was a pleasure, man. You guys have a good one.
You don't want to go. You want to go out there? G-Funk, you don't want to go out there? You don't want to go out there and go fuck with the G-Funk, you don't want to go out there and go play with the Great Whites, man?
No, I'm good, man. I love going to Santa Cruz, man. It's cool. They got the amusement park there and stuff, but I ain't getting in the water out there, man. It's too dangerous.
What was that, Stormy? What was that?
I was telling G Funky to get ready for next Saturday.
Oh yeah, I'm ready, bro. I'm gonna go buy me some rain boots and my Gordon's Fisherman rain coat. I'm ready for the storm, baby.
So go ahead and promote it. What's going on Saturday? I mean, I know what it is, but just promote it anyway.
Oh, he's gonna be on the end of Eye of the Storm, bro.
Yeah, I'll be on
Oh,
Stormy's channel.
okay. Stormy B, man, it sounds like, man, you got like a makeshift band in the background, bro. Like you didn't pull out pots and pans and start whacking them.
Yeah, that's why I'm muting my mic because I got a dryer going in the background. Sorry about that. That's why I'm trying to mute the
That's
mic.
all right, bro. Thank you for coming on, G-Funk. Make sure you guys subscribe to Stormy B-Man so you can check out G-Funk on the Eye of the Storm on Saturday next week. And subscribe to G-Funky84 as well. So shout out to him. Okay, we're going to go ahead and proceed here, guys. Give me a 1 for Winky Wright. And give me a 2 for Thomas the Hitman Hearns of Motor City Cobra. I want to know what you guys think. Go ahead and put that in the chat. Shout out to Scrapbook Boxing. What's good, D-Style? And panel Hearns over Wright and Hagler over Hearns, he says. All right. There we go. Yeah, man, this is a pretty one-sided thing so far. So that's that. We're going to go ahead and move on to this matchup. I don't recall who picked this matchup. It looks like I see a bunch of 2s there. So that is that. Let's go ahead and start with you, Kurt.
Go ahead. I thought somebody. Oh no, go ahead. My bad. I didn't.
You're cool. But Curtis Anderson, how do you see Andy Lee against Michael Nunn? How do you see this matchup?
Andy Lee, I was never big on him as a fighter. He had a big right hand, but his chin wasn't the best. He's an okay fighter at best. Michael Nunn was a very good fighter. In his prime, knocked out the tough, underrated Sambo Colombi. A lot of speed, underrated power. Michael Nunn knocks out Andy Lee in 6 rounds. It will be a cakewalk for 5 rounds, and then Nunn would be like enough of playing. Boom, fight is over. Nunn by a 6-round TKO over Andy Lee.
Oh, there you go. All right, Stormy B-Man, how do you see this matchup?
I see this one as no contest. I see Michael Nunn boxing this guy's ears off, and then with a flurry late, maybe 9th round, Nunn pours it on, and the ref jumps in and stops it because Andy Lee can't block the punches. Michael Nunn at middleweight had fast hands, very fast hands, and if he could make a guy like Frank Tate submit, Andy Lee is nowhere near Frank Tate's level. He'll get Andy Lee out of there quite easily.
All right. And Battle Rifle, how do you see this one?
Yeah, Andy Lee was pretty good. I mean, he beat Matt Korobov when he was, kind of considered like Triple G before he was Triple G. And honestly, he's had although his trainer didn't have much experience, I think he's a really good trainer in Adam Booth. But I think, what his dimensions are is kind of just, it's just limited to this era. I mean, Michael Nunn just had it all. And Andy Lee, I mean, he taking that punishment, I just don't think he would be up to the plate. So honestly, I'd just give this to Michael Nunn. I could pick it like a middle round stoppage.
All right, Scrapbook in the chat says Nunn over Lee. Kelly, how do you see this one, man?
Yeah, I see it the same way. I mean, if Michael Nunn gets caught, though, I mean, it can go the other way. Andy Lee has real game-changing power. So it's just a simple fact. I mean, if Michael Nunn, stays on the outside and boxes, he'll beat the shit out of Andy Lee. It's just that simple. And Andy Lee was the kind of guy who could take a beating. Like you could drop him a couple times, you can get up. But if you slow down, if you have one little mental lapse, he could turn the fight around. So it's really a situation where you just need to just be focused the whole fight, and you should be able to beat him easily. This fight shouldn't be competitive at all, just based off the skill set between the two fighters, man.
All right, chat. I mean, I got Michael Nunn winning this fight. Andy Lee is chinning himself. You know what I mean? So, what does he have going for him? I don't know, man. But everyone in the chat, give me a 1 for Andy Lee, and give me a 2 for Michael Nunn. Okay, 2nd to none. Go ahead and put that on here. While we wait on the chat to go ahead and post that, it's pretty, obvious where we're going with that. We're going to see if the new school cats are going to get swept in the first round. This has not happened since we've done fantasy, tournaments like this, where all the new cats get eliminated in the first round, just like that. So, Callie, since Callie Pavlik's on here, okay, it's Mike McCallum. You tell me how you see this matchup, and should we get the broom out for the new guys? Let me. Oh, there. My bad. You were backstage. Yeah. Callie, how do you see this matchup, man?
I think Kelly Pavlik gets the shit beat out of him, man. I think Kelly Pavlik. This is another situation where Mike McCallum can not only box, but he could punch. And Kelly Pavlik, even though he's shown the ability to be tough and shown the ability to get up, this isn't Jermaine Taylor. This is going to be a real massacre, man. I think that Callum starts early, goes upstairs, downstairs. I think he finishes Kelly Pavlik within 5 rounds. I just don't see this fight as competitive at all.
Kelly Pavlik, even with Jack Lowe in his corner, time with a double jab.
Yeah, he's still destruction, man.
Stormy B-Man, how do you see it, man? Kelly Pavlik against Michael Nunn.
Mike McCallum stops Kelly Pavlik inside. Yeah, Mike McCallum stops Kelly Pavlik inside of 12. TKO. Mike McCallum beats him up to the body. Kelly Pavlik is too dumb to go down or take a knee or whatever, so the ref will have to jump in and stop this fight. He'll be busted up really bad. He had no head movement. Mike McCallum was popping those left hooks on him like crazy. Ref will have to jump in and stop it. That's it.
All right. And Curtis Anderson, Mike McCallum or Kelly Pavlik?
This is a cakewalk. Kelly Pavlik got some pop, but you need a lot more than that to beat a special fighter like Mike McCallum. I was always high on him. He knew every trick in the book. He gave Tony all he can handle. He knocked out Julian Jackson. Mike McCallum, man, was an excellent fighter. One of the 2 or 3 best fighters ever come out of Jamaica. He knocked out Donna Curry. I call him the Jamaican sensation. He sparred with Hearns. Hearns gave him the name, the body snatcher. He's an excellent body puncher. McCallum knocks out Pavlik in 4 rounds. Pavlik don't move his head, and he will set up Pavlik very easily with something big up top, and then stop him. McCallum and 4 over Pavlik.
All right. Battle Rifles. Before you go, somewhere around the 3rd round, I heard this. But how do you see it?
Honestly, I just see, Mike McCallum doing his best work. He was a tremendous counterpuncher. Really knew how to slip people's punches, and instead of just slipping and then, just leaving range and coming back, he actually know how to roll and come back. He would take a shot, roll it and come back, take a shot and roll it and come back. And that was his bread and butter. So I think just in almost every way I see him beating McCallum. I'm not sure it's a stoppage. It's hard to really put a pin on it. Mike McCallum did manage to stop Michael Watson, who had a really, really good chin. But it's hard. Kelly Pavlik had a chin too, but that was kind of to his detriment. I think he had seizures.
I hear you, man. Well. Let's see what the chat thinks, man. Give me a 1 for Kelly Pavlik, a 2 for Mike McCallum. The Ghost or the Body Snatcher? You guys put it in the chat right now. This is going to be interesting because we all kind of know what's going to happen. But what do you think, Callie? What do you think is about to happen?
I think that Kelly Pavlik, he's going home early. Kelly Pavlik can go back to campaigning with Hillary Clinton. I think he's better at that than he is fighting someone like Mike McCallum. That's what I think, man.
So you okay? Can you go on?
Yo, but
I don't know if you remember that, man. I don't know if you remember that when Hillary Clinton, he campaigned with Hillary Clinton, and that was when he was running. That's when she ran against Obama. I don't know if you remember that. Kelly Pavlik came out with Hillary Clinton when Hillary Clinton said when she complained about. I know it's not political, but she complained about Obama and her pamphlets about our health care plan, and she got upset about the shit or the fake outrage. But that's a whole other subject, man. But yeah, that's what I always remember that Kelly Pavlik because of that. Just because he was with Hillary Clinton, man.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. It's a clean sweep. None of the guys from the last 20 years advanced. Not one. Not one, bro. I think there was one total vote out of all the fights. This is insane. But, well, that's it. We're about to move on here. But before we do, Stormy, what do you make of the clean sweep, man? None of the new dudes advanced.
In the words of Archie Moore, beautiful.
Yeah. Well, that's that. Curtis, what do you make of it? Is it something you kind of saw coming?
Oh, absolutely. Those guys not on the level of Tony and McCallum, and it's two totally different levels, man. In boxing, we say there's levels to this, and you see the widespread level. You have one group who's in the penthouse, and you had another group who's in the outhouse. So, it's just the level and scale, man. Pure skill, nothing else, man. The McCullums and Tony will give anybody trouble, any middleweight trouble. But those guys, the new guys, just weren't good enough.
Hey,
so
Kurt.
I saw it coming.
Kurt, we just thought there's none of those new guys have the well-rounded skill set of any of those dudes. I can't think of not one of those dudes who has that kind of well-rounded skill set at all.
Nope. James Tony McCullum. Nope.
I hear you, man.
What about Paul Williams, Kelly?
Nah, bro. Paul Williams get destroyed, man. Paul Williams versus Roy Joe bro. Are you fucking kidding me?
Not against Roy, but I'm just saying, like, he had some skills.
He would be chin. He would get chin, bro, against Hagler, Heard.
Guys, somebody has an echo. Somebody has an echo. So
I don't think that's me.
I think we got. No, is it me? Hold on.
Is it me?
Hold on. Let me try to get
me. Testing 1, 2.
It's me.
Okay. All right. No, man, I still hear it.
Testing 1, 2. Testing.
I don't know what happened. I still hear it. Hold on. Give me a second. Yeah, I don't hear it anymore.
Yeah, you're good now.
Yeah, it's gone now. But let's go ahead and proceed.
See me try again. Okay,
yeah, we're good. We're going to go ahead and proceed. The new guys got swept. Maybe there's an upset or something, tomorrow. But as of right now, none of the new guys got in, man. And this is some of the best names of the last 20 years, too. So that is that. Curtis, go ahead and start us with the top left corner there. Hagler, Mugabe, of course. This would be, I guess, a rematch. Would that play out any differently for you?
Hagler gets rid of him quicker. In the rematch, both middleweights both fought in 86, I believe. Hagler knocks him out about around 8. He'll fight him more aggressively the inside. Like I said, Hagler could fight inside, mid-level, or long range. Mugabe has some success because when you looked at Hagler's eye, his eye was cold. But Hagler gets rid of him earlier this time. Fighting on the inside. The first fight took a lot out of Mugabe. He was never the same after that. Hagler by TKO round 8.
All right, Stormy B-Man, do you see it any differently?
No, sir, I don't see it any differently. I only see it in a different round. I give it 5 rounds this time because Hagler beat all the fight out of him the first time around, which is why Mugabe never rose to the prominence that he had entering the Hagler fight in the thereafter. Fighters like Terry Norris were able to take him out very quickly and early, and Hagler would do the same thing to him again. He'd pull the plug on him much earlier, sooner, quicker in the rematch.
Got you. Kelly, you drafted or you selected Mugabe, right?
Yeah.
You defend your dude, bro. Are you gonna...
Nah, man. He got to all go, man. Hagler was one of my favorite fighters of all time, bro. So I hated Sugar Ray Leonard. I'm not a Sugar Ray Leonard fan. I'm a Sugar Ray Leonard hater. I think that, but even though dude was a great fighter, man, they robbed my guy Hagler. Hagler beat his ass. Don't give a damn what anybody say, man. Still can't stand that shit. Fucking want to throw up. I was a kid inside of the house with my dad, with my mom, and we had friends, and my uncles were over, and my dad's friends and stuff, and it was like everybody was for Leonard except for me and my dad, man. And I don't give a fuck what anybody say, man. Hagler won that fight, and it really pissed me off. I didn't cry, but I was mad, man. I went and hit the punching bag after that shit, man. I was so goddamn pissed off, man. I'm still enraged every time I see it. There's no way in the world to me that Sugar Ray Leonard, the last 10 seconds in the round, fucking won the fight. No way. He didn't do shit for the first 2 minutes and 50 seconds of the fight of each round, and was gifted the fight. Bullshit. That's on the subject. But yeah, man, I agree. Mugabe really took a beating. He dished it out too, but he really took a beating in the first fight, and he wasn't the same. The Terry Norris fight was he was very one-sided, and you could tell that his punch resistance was actually depleted after the Hagler fight, the first Hagler fight, man. He probably gets annihilated earlier than that. Hagler in 3, man.
Whew. All right, battle rifles. Do you see this any differently?
I kind of have to agree with Kurt. I think he beats him, but he stops him quicker. Mugabe did put up a good fight the first time, but I think honestly, just Hagler would just go back and just do what he did the first time, but probably box a little bit more. So yeah, I mean, considering the whole politics of that fight, because I think it was Tommy Hearns that was supposed to fight John Mugabe instead, but he fought somebody else. So.
All right. So that'll be that. Seen and unseen boxing. I appreciate it. Says the deck was stacked for the old school. I appreciate the support. And I think, again, we already kind of seen the fight. Mugabe was on fire right before he fought Hagler. Hagler won that fight. He gave Hagler problems, but, hypothetically, if they were to fight again, Hagler will know what to do. And like you guys said, I agree earlier. Chat, give me a 1 for the marvelous one, Hagler, and give me a 2 for Mugabe. We'll see what the chat thinks. And I'm looking forward to the next one right now. Okay. So this is Sugar Ray Leonard versus Roy Jones Jr. at 160 pounds, 12 rounds, both at their best at middleweight. Curtis Anderson, how do you see this one?
Well, Roy would give problems to Leonard because of his athleticism, but after that, what else problems can he give him? Does Roy has the moxie and savvy to beat a seasoned guy who has nothing but moxie and savvy? Will Leonard find a way to beat Roy? Will Roy athleticism be enough to carry him to victory? A lot of people will pick Roy in this fight. I'm going the other way because I think the intangibles of Leonard would be barely. It'll be a tough fight. The intangibles that Ray had, that he know how to win more than Roy. Roy depended on athletic ability. Leonard too, but Leonard technical skills was better, and plus the intangibles, knowing how to win. I think Ray was still a couple of rounds down the stretch. It'll be a close fight because Roy will keep him. Roy athletic ability will keep him in the fight. I'm going Leonard by majority decision over Roy Jones in a tough fight. Leonard steals a couple of rounds late in the fight, with some controversy. Leonard by majority decision.
All right, man.
Oh, let me go.
So I know I'm going to get to you, Kelly, next, but I just want to say, you kind of ranted a little bit about, Ray Leonard and this, how he got a decision against Hagler. So I definitely want to hear what you got to say. How do you see Roy Jones Jr. against Sugar Ray Leonard in a 12-round contest, both at their best at middleweight? How do you see that one?
Man, Roy was special as hell, bro. I mean, as much as I like, I'm not going to get into that. I'll save some of the stuff for later. But Roy Jones Jr. is special, man. I mean, this dude was basically, with his athletic ability in his prime, was kind of like a form of a Michael Jordan in boxing, or that kind of a fighter. I'm sorry, his athletic ability, his reflexes, his speed, his power would eke out a victory versus Sugar Ray Leonard, man. I think Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard never fought anybody like that, bro. I mean, of course, Roy never fought anybody like Sugar Ray Leonard, but he's seen the technical skills from other fighters, man. Not of course, not on that level, but none of them dudes have ever seen anything like Roy Jones. Roy Jones is just another level of athlete, bro. His ability, his agility to be able to slip shots, he could be able to stick his chin out and still be able to make you miss from athletic fast fighters. It's something that's special to be able. Because look how he beat James Toney, man. Beat Bernard Hopkins, beat these dudes in the prime. These are high level Hall of Fame fighters, man. Sugar Ray Leonard would run through the same problems as Bernard Hopkins and James Toney, man. This dude is just something else, bro. Roy Jones Jr., man, by decision.
Yeah, you guys are making me take out the clipboard for this one to start tallying. But let's go with Stormy B-Man. How do you see this matchup?
I see this fight with an unpopular choice here. I believe that Roy Jones Jr. took advantage of an out-of-shape James Toney when he faced him for the IBF title back when they fought. And James Toney was a great throwback fighter. Even at that point when they had fought, he came in out of shape. That was his fault. Roy Jones, Sugar Ray Leonard is the equivalent of a class fighter like James Toney was, but he wasn't in that type of mindset that James Toney was. So in a fight against Roy Jones Jr., Sugar Ray would be very focused. He would be able to break down the weaknesses that Jones had, and the weaknesses that Jones had at that time were not visible. Okay, it wasn't something you could see, but fighters can sense what's happening. Roy would be very nervous fighting Sugar Ray Leonard, and Leonard would be able to capitalize on the fact that Roy, the sense of hesitancy, the sense of being in a big fight against a real class big fighter, and Sugar Ray Leonard had something inside of him that even Roy never showed in his career, and that was that changing the levels. if you see a guy wobbled, if you see a guy hurt or whatever, Sugar Ray would go for the kill. And I do believe that he could hurt Roy Jones with something, and that's how he would steal those rounds that Kurt was talking about. And that would make the difference in the fight and make it a close decision for Sugar Ray, because Sugar Ray could be able to be there to capitalize on Roy's mistakes. Not all the time the athletic guys can win. When a guy who is technically sound, equal in athletic ability, and has more on the inside and upstairs as far as boxing IQ.
He won equal in athletic ability, bro.
Well, we'll let you retort a little bit, Callie, but let's go to Battle Rifles. How do you see this matchup?
This was a tough one. The thing about it, I have to think about it to look at who would be the bull and the matador in this fight, because it's kind of hard to really put a picture on it who would actually do it. Because when you look at two fighters that are really skilled and they fight, it's usually a combination of the two. It's not one note. Kind of like James Toney when he fought Mike McCallum. It's usually somebody, trying to get their best punches off in the beginning and seeing how desperate a fighter is going to be to win those rounds once the fights, get later. Because that's usually if you look at a boxer's mindset, that's the best way to beat a fighter, to where you beat them early so they can, in a sense, be more desperate as the fight goes on. So honestly, the more I think about it, I kind of see Sugar Ray Leonard as being a matador, because he would take what he can get. He's not the type of fighter that's just going to sit there and wait for you. If he wants to go get it, he'll go get it. He's the type of guy that literally he's not a boxer that's just going to sit there and wait for you. Like, he will literally, if you decide to box, he will actually cut off that ring and turn himself into Triple G if he has to. Like, he literally does. He's done that on multiple occasions. He's done it the time he earns. So the fact of the matter is, I kind of see Sugar Ray Leonard trying to, overpower, Roy Jones with his combination punching. But at the same time, I see Roy Jones, status jockeying a lot, kind of like Bernard Hopkins and when he fought. So it's a really, really difficult matchup. But honestly, I think the more, when I think about this fight, I think that Sugar Ray Leonard I think what would happen is he would kind of get suckered into a slugfest. And then when he thinks it's a slugfest, it's not going to be. It's going to be Roy Jones takes a couple of punches, responds in an effective way, and then Sugar Ray Leonard think, okay, well, we're going to have to exchange now. But Roy Jones is not going to do that. He usually doesn't fight that way. So he's going to tie up, he's going to get off his best punches, get off those hooks off the jab. And what I think he's going to do is he's going to start doing the infamous Roy Jones, I'm going to jab at your shoulder. And as soon as you get to the point where Sugar Ray Leonard thinks it's a slugfest, I think he's just going to start pot-shotting him, where it's not going to be good for Ray Leonard, because he's going to have to constantly chase after this guy for 12 rounds. And honestly, I think I'm going to give this one to Roy Jones, because I think Sugar Ray Leonard is going to be in a spot where he just can't box with Roy Jones early. So I think Roy Jones is going to beat him.
I got something to say, because this is a tough matchup. Real quick, what bothers me about Roy Jones' career, and even though it was at a different weight, but it wouldn't matter if they was at middleweight, light, heavyweight, or 168, is the style of Antonio Tarver, because Leonard wouldn't have trouble with an Antonio Tarver. Leonard, guys like Leonard and Ali, Mayweather, they have this thing in their mind where they just knew how to win. And Ray level and ceiling is higher than Roy Jones. Roy Jones was athletic and unorthodox. Leonard was athletic, but technically skilled, more skilled than Roy Jones. Leonard was very special, man. He showed that in the Hearns fight. I don't know if Roy can do that against a caliber opponent. He had 3 chances to beat Antonio Tarver. I mean, he won the first fight. A lot of people say Tarver won the first fight, but the knockout, and then he got thrashed in the third fight. That kind of bothers me. His legacy, he kept getting knocked out when his athletic ability went. You have to have athletic ability and skill to beat a Sugar Ray Leonard, because I don't know, Roy. I've changed my pick from majority decision to unanimous decision because I'm breaking down the fight in my head, and Leonard's IQ that will be the difference. Leonard had a lot of moxie and savvy, man. He just knew what to do to a fighter. One of the smartest fighters that boxing has ever seen. So I like Leonard by 115, 113. Across the board.
Hey, let me say this real quick. I don't know why this thing is doing this again, but let me say this because I think we can't take out of the account that Roy Jones was coming down from 200 pounds and had to cut 25 pounds of muscle, man. That clearly played a factor in the Roy Jones' stamina. It wasn't something where he was cutting fat. This dude cut a lot of muscle, man, and it impacted his stamina in the fight against Antonio Tarver. And he wasn't the same. And on top of that, too, of course, he was also towards the tail end. His career was starting to come out of his prime. But I think the biggest
I don't give a damn what he was doing.
Yes. No. Yes,
from 200 pounds when he fought Roy Jones, and he couldn't knock James Toney out. So when James asked for a rematch, Roy ran away from that. And then when he fought Bernard Hopkins, when Bernard Hopkins was green, Bernard Hopkins took him to school later on after being the undisputed middleweight champion, breaking the records of title
but all this stuff was after his reflex had declined.
When Roy,
it was after his reflex had declined, bro.
That's when he began to lose. So technical fighters could always prevail over him.
The audience can't hear if you're talking over each other.
Yeah, I just wanted to finish.
Yeah, I'm gonna let everybody believe me. But here's what I want to say. Can everybody else? There's definitely an echo. All right. I still have an echo, bro. What's going on here?
Is it me? I think it might be me. Can you go ahead?
I don't know. Let me see. Hold up. Okay, yeah, it was you, Battle Rifles. I'll meet you in a second, but with these close ones, everyone's going to get an opportunity to speak. Don't worry about it. But let me give my take really quick, okay? And we'll run it back a little bit because it's pretty close. So this is at 160, all right? At 160 pounds. While, yes, Roy Jones Jr. is probably the most naturally athletic fighter I've ever seen in my life, okay? Definitely in the modern era. But he was green compared to Sugar Ray Leonard to me at that time, all right? Leonard was at this point, Leonard's a savvy veteran who, by the way, knows how to win rounds. So I don't know if Roy Jones can keep up with that. Okay, he could be athletic all he wants, but yes, Roy Jones made a lot of guys look foolish in the ring, but I just don't think Ray Leonard is that guy. You know what I mean? Yes, Roy Jones had power. He had speed. He was explosive. His instincts were unbelievable. But I got to be honest. I mean, I came into this saying, I think Roy Jones is going to win the whole tournament. But then as I looked at the brackets, I said, I think Sugar Ray Leonard is the worst matchup they could have put Roy in against. And listening to Curtis Anderson, give his take here, and Stormy B-Man, and even some of what Battle Rifle said, I'm leaning towards Leonard right now. Now, it's barely leaning because I know Roy was a beast. Okay, he was unbelievable at 160. But, Kelly, tell me why I should change my mind. Why should anybody in the chat change their mind, or anybody in the panel?
Hopefully this thing, okay, they finally let me off mute. One of the reasons you should definitely change your mind is that Sugar Ray Leonard wasn't at his best at 160. This was kind of a situation. I think a lot of people still like the go back to the Hagler fight where he would just fight the last 10 seconds of a round. To me, Sugar Ray Leonard wasn't his best at 160. He was a beast at 147, and he was solid. It was pretty, and he was damn good at 154. But at 160, I would say more. He was towards the end of his career at 160, and that 160 against Roy Jones, he probably get beat up or probably get. A matter of fact, thinking about it now, I would have Roy Jones probably beating the shit out of him, man. Thinking about it, it wasn't the prime Sugar Ray Leonard. Roy Jones. As a matter of fact, I'm changing it. Roy Jones by knockout, man. Just thinking about the Sugar Ray Leonard that fought at 160, man. Roy Jones by knockout.
Here's what I'm going to say, Kelly. If your argument to me, right, this is just to me, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, is that, I mean, all Ray Leonard did against Hagler was fight the last 10 seconds of every round. I've seen that fight and I've scored it. That's not what happened. But not from my vantage point. I think that fight's a lot closer than people give it credit for. I've scored it a draw. I've scored it maybe one round for Hagler. That's a very close fight. But I know Stormy had something to say. Go ahead, Stormy.
Well, just to piggyback off of what you just offered, D-Style, Ray Leonard came off of almost a 3-year layoff and fought Hagler and pulled off what he did. Imagine had he remained active as a champion, which he was when he took that time away from the ring. That speaks volumes about his ability. Hagler was smashing people, everybody, Hearns, Mugabe, all those guys. And when Ray Leonard came out here, he was able to dance circles around Hagler, outbox him. Yes, the fight was very close. It was razor thin. It could have gone any way, but he got the decision. The man had ability, and he could fight at different levels. It depends on who he's in the ring with. That didn't mean that he fought down to the level of anyone, because he did not do that. He remained at a supreme level. However, he was also graced with great boxing IQ to back up what he could do technically with his skills. And he could break a fighter down psychologically. This is not something that you're seeing guys even like Roy Jones do, because Roy was able to benefit off of his athleticism, but he had nothing else to fall back on after that. Guys like Tarver should not be able to just get in there and go like they did with him if he were technically sound, which he was not. You see, and that's why Bernard Hopkins came back in a rematch many years later, far too long later than should have been, and basically beat Roy up. Roy was not the same guy because he couldn't do the same things, but Bernard could do the same things and more from the experiences that he garnered in his career between their fights. He was able to raise the level, what he brought. Roy was on a decline and Bernard was on an ascension. And the thing about it is, who was the older guy? Think about it.
Hey, mind if I say something too, D-Style?
Yeah, go ahead.
You mind if I say something too?
Yes, better, Rafa. Go ahead.
It's I think, okay, so this fight, like, it's so difficult, but like, I would just like to say that when it comes to like Roy Jones and Sugar Ray Leonard, I just, I kind of have to agree that, when it came to Sugar Ray Leonard, that, he wasn't at his best, but he did have a pretty good run as he came back from retirement. So the thing of the matter is, like, when I look at Roy Jones, it's just like I said, like, when it's two guys going up against each other and they have really equal skills as far as they are both can fight really well on the outside, it's usually two guys status jockeying until one fighter gives up their position as being the matador instead of the bull. That's usually how it goes. I watch a lot of these fights, and if you look at Bernard Hopkins versus Roy Jones, it was the exact same way. If you look at the first round, they barely landed any punches. They threw a lot, but it was, Bernard Hopkins and Roy Jones just basically throwing, just kind of like a Roberto Duran job. They wasn't really throwing a land, just throwing just to set up. Like, it was a whole bunch of throwing, not really landing, because they was really, really, really trying their hardest not to give up, their positions so they can get countered. Because I know usually the first 3 rounds are really tells the fight, because once the boxer can win the first few rounds, if you're not like the best fighter ever, it's really, really, really hard to come after that guy, get those points back, and then regain that lead position. Because if you lost the first fight, you already in the ring with somebody who's the best of the best who can box. So to all of a sudden be the guy to have to chase after the boxers when you're usually a matador, it's really, really frustrating. That's why Pernell Whitaker had so much problem with Hurtado de Soblis. He got knocked down early, and because he was the one doing the chasing instead of him being a chaser, it became like a struggle. So what Roy Jones did, I think that he's like the greatest sniper I've ever seen. He can really hit you from afar. I think he is like the king of long range combat. I've never seen a guy that can hit you so effectively from so far outside of range where you just did not know this guy could actually do it. A lot of fighters, they'll jab their way in, they'll lean close like Terry Noyes does, or they'll set up the body and then hit to the head. But no, Roy Jones could legitimately fight from very long range, and he did it extremely effective. So I think that would be the reason why I would give it to Roy, because I think he would land the first shots, and then Sugar Ray Leonard would be like, okay, well, you want to play that way? I'm going to have to be the matador. I'm going to have to be the bull. And I think Roy Jones is just not going to go for that.
Hey, yeah, as I say, you're talking about a diminished Sugar Ray Leonard too. It's not like it's the prime Sugar Ray Leonard at that point, man. Going against a prime Roy Jones Jr., bro, to me, it's not what people think it is. But I mean, to each their own.
Let me ask you this, Kelly. Who has faster hands?
Roy.
You're 100% confident about that?
I'm confident about that.
Okay.
Well, we're going to move on, but the last thing I have to say, Leonard looked damn good against Hagler that night to beat him. A lot of people didn't give him a chance. When I picked Leonard to beat Hagler, they started laughing at me on the shipping docks in Totowa, New Jersey. They thought I was crazy. I said, okay. Now, I'm just going to say this real quick, because we spent a lot of times a hot topic. Everybody got a right to their opinion. But one thing people ain't talking about will not happen. Those left hooks that Roy Jones land on inferior competition, they will not land on Leonard. Leonard will take that left hook away. You're not beating a guy like Sugar Ray Leonard without a jab. That's why Tommy Hearns had so much success in both of these fights. If you can't counter Sugar Ray Leonard's counter, you're never going to beat him. Leonard has too much moxie. His footwork is too good. Roy throw that hook, Ray ain't going to be there, because Roy's fast, but Leonard is fast as well, but with more technical ability and more moxie and savvy. If Roy never threw jabs like that, he will depend on his wide left hooks and, power punches, the lead right hand and all that, especially the left hook. He's not hitting Leonard with that. That ain't going to happen.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and take this one to a vote. I think everyone gave their take. This one was a close one, but we're going to go ahead and right now, Leonard, as we speak, has a slight lead with the panel. We're going to go ahead and put this up for a vote with the chat. The chat's going to play a big, vital role with this one. So listen to me very closely. Press 1 for Sugar Ray Leonard. Press 2 for Roy Jones Jr. Once again, 1 for Leonard, 2 for Roy Jones Jr. It's in the hands of the chat. You don't get to vote again.
Stormy B man trying to cheat. All right, dude.
He's in the chat.
There we go.
Give me a second, guys. While I tally it up here, while I tally this up, I'm not announcing the winner yet. Let's go on to James Tony versus Thomas Hitman Hearns. Curtis,
it's looking like a draw.
Woo.
Talk to us about this fight while I tally this one up, man.
That's a
Lord
tough
have
fight.
mercy.
James Toney was a special fighter. So was Tommy Hearns, more so. But the big difference here, Tony was sometimes inconsistent. He fought an Italian fighter. I forgot his name. I thought he lost that fight. He got a gift decision. He had problems with Sweet Reggie Johnson. He got knocked down. That was for the IBF middleweight championship. He got knocked down by Sweet Reggie Johnson. Tommy Hearns ain't losing to that guy. Tommy Hearns ain't losing to no Sweet Reggie Johnson. Tommy Hearns as a boxer, man. As special as Tony was boxing, Tony will be fighting what we call behind Tommy Hearns, meaning he will be one step too slow, two punches too slow. Tommy had a stinging jab to knock out a guy like James Schuler at middleweight, who was undefeated and making his debut at middleweight in the first round. I said, man, this dude is a beast, all-time great. Tommy Hearns outpoints James Toney in 12 rounds, unanimous decision. He also outboxed Rafael Benitez, who's a master boxer. Tommy, very underrated boxer, can outbox anybody. Leonard, anybody. It's aggressive fighters who beat Tommy Hearns. Tony special, but Hearns even more so. Hearns, unanimous decision.
All right. Stormy, B-Man, how do you see it?
Wow. Kurt did make an interesting point about Tony sometimes not being on, which if you have to factor that in, it puts things more in favor of Tommy Hearns. Boxing wise, straight up, I think that Hearns was the better boxer. He could probably keep Tony at bay with that power that he had in the right hand, and he knew how to throw that left hook to the body, and he could work his jab. So I'm going to go with Tommy Hearns, maybe even getting wobbled from a shot or something at some point in the fight, but being able to have the ring savvy to hold tight and box his way to victory. I got Tommy Hearns with a majority decision victory in this one.
Okay. Right now, in my calculations, as I do the points, it's actually a draw with Roy Jones Jr. and seen and unseen just voted for Roy Jones Jr. So
that's Roy Jones just won.
Hold on, I'm going to count to 10. Okay, I'm going to count to 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, that's the count.
So Roy wins by split decision.
Sorry, we were trying to get a vote in there. But wow, this one was very, very close, and Roy Jones Jr. wins this one by probably the closest.
Split decision.
It was close. Yeah. Callie, talk to us. Hearns or James Toney?
Ooh, this that's really hard. Here's something that no one really brought into account. First thing, I do like the fact that they brought into account that James Toney doesn't always train hard and stay and focuses in every fight. So it was a fight to fight basis. But Tommy Hearns had a very fucking weak chin. Yes, I mean, that's the question too. And if Tony counters him, catches him on the chin, that fight gets turned around right away. God damn. You got to go with consistency, bro. Hearns by decision, man. I'm going with Hearns by decision because you don't know if Tony shows up, he could potentially knock out Tommy Hearns. But I mean, if we go by consistency, man, it's Tommy Hearns, man. Tommy Hearns by 12-round decision, unanimous decision.
Battle Rifles, how do you see it?
Man, this is, if I'm just going to state the attributes off the top, Tommy Hearns have one of the greatest jabs in boxing history, could flick it so well, and then it was to the point where it was just in your face. It was just distracting. It was just there. It was just pepping you up all night through the head, to the chest, to the stomach. Having a style to where he can effectively switch from I can cut off the ring and keep you on the ropes and get off my best combinations, or I could sit here and just keep you, really, really battling behind my height, behind my best punches. And Tony, he could slip so well. He can actually slip from left to right. I know a lot of people can compare his half guard, his Philly shell or Philly crab, whatever you like to call it, to Mayweather. But James Tony, actually, his is different in the sense that he slips more than he blocks. I know a lot of Floyd Mayweather, a lot of his style relies on the blocks. You'll usually see him protect the combination. You'll see him parry the jab, roll the right hand, and then as he's coming back for the hook, he doesn't like slip it. He usually holds his hand up. He holds the phone with his right hand. And instead of Tony, he would actually jab the right hand, slip the right hand, and then actually weave up under the hook, which is you don't see that. You don't see people just slipping shots like that many times. But now that I mentioned that, sometimes it compromises James Tony's balance, because when you slip, you in a sense kind of put yourself in a position where you can't move. Because I don't know if you guys ever played Fight Night, but Fight Night they have a modifier on the controller where when you hold the L1 and you try to slip, you can't move. So you're kind of compromising your body to move your head. And you can get really good counters off this, but Tony sometimes, like Curtis said, was inconsistent. With the sense that some people, gave him better fights, even at the top level, not in the point where he was just past his prime, like Montel Griffin and, stuff like that. Montel Griffin actually gave him one of his toughest fights. So the fact of the matter is, I can see Tommy Hearns really struggling with this fight, because he did struggle with Wilfred Benitez. Even though he knocked him down in that fight, he was really struggling to hit this guy in the head, because, well, it's Wilfred Benitez. He's never easy to hit in the head, except unless you're Sugar Ray Leonard. So it was just like one of those fights where if he could not, he got Wilfred Benitez on the ropes plenty of times, but he just couldn't hit him because, it's Wilfred Benitez. This guy's head is almost impossible to hit. And that's kind of the same thing with James Tony. You can't really hit his head. And Tommy Hearns, I think, to the detriment in that fight, he was just head hunting. He just didn't use the body as much. So honestly, even with that said, I've seen Tony struggle more even at that level than I've seen Tommy Hearns. He won that fight by majority decision, but the fact of the matter is, you don't ever see Tony. You don't see Hearns struggling to get a fight where it's a split decision. It's a majority decision. It's a draw. You didn't see that at that point in his career. He either won by 2 ways, by unanimous decision or knockout. So I think for the simple fact that Tony would be compromising his footwork to slip shots from Tommy Hearns, I think Tommy Hearns would just, eventually start to just get shots on the back of the head. It might look weird at first, but it's going to be the point where Tony has to stumble over and regain his senses, to the point where people are going to be like, it wasn't clean, but he's making him look bad because of the simple fact that he's taking some hits to the back of the head. And I think that's just going to be enough for Tommy Hearns to be up on the scorecards by like the middle rounds. And then by the end of it, I think they're going to give it to Tommy Hearns, because he's just going to be doing the same thing over and over again, just slapping Tony at like the top of the head. I don't think he's going to be able to hit him as effective. But
hey, you know what else though too? Oh, I'm sorry. But you know what else too is Tony would use the ropes. The reason he fought so much on the ropes, especially in the second half of his career, because that was a way for him to rest during the fight too. James Tony. So he also did it, and he also did it in middleweight at one time. That because he could fight off the ropes, but he used it as a way to save his legs. I don't think that would be effective against Hearns. But I wanted to ask one question, Curtis. Do you still want to adapt battle rifle? I know you said that before in the past. Do you still want to adopt battle rifle, man?
Oh my God, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, battle rifle's cool, man. I can talk to him about some things, man. About boxing. He cool. Battle rifle's cool, man.
Yeah, guys, I here's what I'll say, man. Do you guys not see in any way, like, I don't see how it's possible that James Toney does not counter Thomas. Like, he's going to land a big counter shot on Hearns at some point. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
that's what I said too, man. But I said it all depends on which shape. If Tony comes to shape, I think he can potentially knock out Hearns because Hearns' chin is so weak and it's right out there, especially because he can punch. He'll punch with Tommy Hearns and counter him off the ropes.
But
with something
wait,
a big shot.
Really quick, battle rifle. What was your official pick again?
I picked Tommy Hearns.
Hearns, okay. Look, man, I'm definitely in the minority here, but I think James Toney catches him at some point, hurts him, and probably stops him. And the only reason I'm saying that is because James Toney, man, at middleweight, and the hypothetical is, I get, he's inconsistent, he came out of shape. The hypothetical is at their best. Like that's the guys facing each other.
We're going at their best. Is that what we're doing?
That's exactly what the tournament is. But let me say this, okay? At their best, James Toney's going to come in at his best. Hearns at his best, okay, at 160 pounds, 12-round fight. At some point, I just think James Toney's going to clip him. Maybe Hearns. I do see Hearns outboxing him, but at some point, he's going to get clipped. And I think he's going to stop Thomas Hearns at some point late in the fight.
See, I didn't know we were doing that caveat. I thought we were adding other caveats. If it's at their best, I got Toney by knockout, bro. Because to me, Tommy Hearns' chin was just trash, bro.
Okay, so did anybody else change their mind?
I still got Tommy. I think he can get counter effectively. Yeah, I mean, Tony at his best was still really good, but I think the simple fact that his counters relied on people standing in front of them, people who fought on the move. A lot of people, they like to say jab on the fly. You know how they say, trainers teach you that, they say move to your left while you're throwing a jab. I think he's not going to be in much position to counter effectively as he wants to. He's still going to do it. Eventually, he's going to be catching Tommy Hearns with straight rights. But we also seen him against lesser fighters still get outboxed because they found out early, if I could just step around this guy and throw a good better combinations, he's going to compromise his best counters because he can't effectively move into the shot. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like I throw a right hand, and then because you're so far backwards, you can't counter with another right hand because I'm too far away. You can't counter as effectively as you want to unless I actually throw my whole body into you, and then you can counter effectively with a right hand.
Hey, by the way, really quick, and I'm all for freedom of speech and a side conversation here and there, but and you know who you are. Mayweather. No one's even talking about Mayweather right now. All right, just drop it, bro. You think he's the best ever? That's fine. I feel like you're trolling, so please stop trolling the damn chat. Okay, enough's enough.
Yeah, man, fuck him anyway, man.
All right, I'm just gonna say, just enough's enough. We're talking about these fights, and then I'm trying to keep a score here in a little bit. You know what I mean? So enough of that damn fight. Enough of the hypothetical Mayweather against middleweights and all that shit. Okay, but with that said, so far Tommy Hearns has a comfortable lead. But let's go ahead and put it up for the chat. And if I see anybody talking about Mayweather while I'm doing the count, I'm going to remove you from the chat. I'm just going to tell you right now. All right. Give me a 1 for James Lights Out Toney. Give me a 2 for Thomas Hitman Hearns. All right. Go ahead and give me that, and we'll start from there. While we do that, let's go ahead and proceed. Michael Nunn, Mike McCallum, Curtis, tell us how you see that matchup, bro.
Michael Nunn, fast fighter, athletic ability. Mike McCollum, technically superior, beautiful fighter. Mike McCollum beats Michael Nunn by 11 round TKO. McCollum is on the same level as Tony. He's on the same level as Bernard Hopkins. He's an old school fighter. I have a lot of respect for Mike McCallum. I think he catches Nunn with something. The fight will be similar with how Nunn got knocked out with Tony, but McCallum will do it easier. Mike McCallum was a fantastic fighter. People just don't understand how fantastic. I got McCallum over Nunn by 11 round TKO.
Whew. All right. Callie, how do you see it, bro?
And man, I totally agree with Curtis Anderson on this one, except for I think he gets stopped earlier. I think Mike McCallum works the body early and often. I think by the sixth round, you'll see Nunn suck and win. And I think midway through the eighth round, I think he gets him up out of there via technical knockout, knocked down 3 times.
Man. All right, Stormy B Man, do you see this any differently?
Yes, I do, sir. I see it quite differently. Michael Nunn was such a dynamic fighter at middleweight. James Toney caught him late. He made a mistake. Angie was telling him to move, and he didn't. He got caught, and he paid for it. But McCallum was older than James Toney. So at this weight and at that class, at their best, I think that Michael Nunn still had enough to box and stay safe from McCallum. There was a lot of things that he could do with his movement and his hand speed. And he was technically a good boxer as well. It wasn't like he just had this, thing like Roy had. He was Michael Nunn had very good, and he was a southpaw, very dangerous for McCallum because of the hand speed. He could possibly catch him like he caught Sambu Colombe. It's one of those things that I feel like it was a fight that Michael Nunn could win. It was a fight that almost happened during their careers, but I take Nunn with the decision over Mike McCallum.
All right. Battle Rifles. It looks like this is a close one. Your vote has big weight here. How do you see it?
I noticed throughout the years that usually, you will talk to a lot of trainers and they'll tell you if they're in a sense forming you as a boxer that they want to be a combination of the two, a boxer puncher. And I don't mean a boxer puncher that you can box but you just have power. No, I mean the boxer puncher that can fight in different styles if you want to. They usually say if a guy wants to box, then you should brawl him, and if a guy wants to brawl, then you should box him. But I noticed from a very long time of watching boxing that sometimes the best way to beat a boxer is to box him. Yes, brawl him in a sense, like in very small spurts, because their game plan is to box you. So if you're just boxing and the other person's boxing, then it's just going to be two people looking at each other for like the whole round and not landing anything. But that is a big problem because a lot of boxers just aren't used to chasing guys down. So once they have to chase guys down, it's a really big problem. They spent their whole career moving backward, but they never really learn how to move forward. So when I look at this fight, I think it tells tables for Nunn, because don't get me wrong, like Mike McCallum could effectively fight very sturdy. He could cut the ring off. He could actually get there in the paint, fight, brawl, do the combination of the two. He could do it, but I think the fight that is really telling his career was this fight with Sambu Kalambe. I actually watched that fight. The fight was really close. I don't get me wrong, the fight was super close, and that's actually a fight where people kind of see Mike McCallum was robbed. But I think since I've seen Michael Nunn just super crafty. Like he's gonna pull on top of the head, like what he did with Frank Tate, or get off those shoe shine combinations he likes to do just to show off. And instead of just keeping his hands at bay so people can just hit him, he likes to keep his hands extended, like almost like he's fighting like kind of like Sandy Saddler. He likes to fight with his hands extended. So I think the simple fact that because his jab is there to pop McCallum at the top of the head, I think he's just going to eventually learn that I'm going to have to do a little dirty, get my best shots off, and then I think Mike McCallum is going to be forced to chase Michael Nunn down, and of course it's going to be a situation where he's going to get some good body shots off because he likes to roll those shots, but I think he's going to see essentially.
Hey, how do I repeat like your last two sentences you cut off there?
You hear me better now?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello. Oh, okay. I think it's going to be a situation where Michael Nunn is going to have to be like, okay, well, I'm going to have to do a little dirty to get my best shot. So he thinks he's going to, apply that pull on top of the head where he did against Frank Tate, get those best shots off, get those little shoe shine combinations show off a little bit. And Michael Nunn is gonna, he's gonna play around. Like, okay, you got me a little bit. Let me get this work. And I think eventually once he starts to realize he has to slug, again, it's kind of like Sugar Ray Leonard against Roy Jones. Once he realizes that, it's going to be all downhill from it for him. It's not going to be super wide. I'm not saying that. I think it's going to be close. I'm going to have None by UD, but I think it's going to be close. Like it's going to be a situation where it's a kind of a toss up to some people, but I think he is going to beat him by UD. I think None is going to kind of sucker him into the fight that McCallum he's good with, but he's not the best at.
Man, I'm on the fence in this fight. So I think Michael Nunn outboxes him, bro. That's how I see it. But um, right now, but before I give my take, uh, Curtis, do you want to kind of retort anything you've heard or anything like that?
No, I'm pretty much, cool with everything. This is a tough fight. I just think that Mike McCallum's moxie is more than Nunn's, and Nunn will make a mistake. It's sort of like Tony, plus McCallum is more disciplined, but McCallum fought Julian Jackson coming up. He was hurt in the first round, recovered and knocked him out. He knocked out Donald Curry. Like McCollum is just a level above Nunn, so I like McCollum over now. I just got this thing where Nunn will make a mistake and McCollum will capitalize. I just got that in the pit of my stomach. So we can go on.
Yeah, because look, man, Nunn looked really good in that. I know he got knocked out, but he looked really good in that Tony fight. So I don't know if McCallum can catch him like that. It's possible, but let's go ahead. We're gonna find out if second to none is second to someone or not. So, look, man, let's do this. Chat, give me a 1 for Nunn. Give me a 2 for McCallum. It's in your hands. So let's go ahead and see it right now. Make sure you guys throw a jab at the like button. By the way, let's get a 30 likes ASAP. We're at 27. We're almost there. Let's see how the chat sees this one. It's close. It's really, really close.
You know what would be awesome? You know how ESPN used to do computer generated. What they would do is they would take whole games from NFL teams and they would put them against each other. So it'd be like the 80. What would it be like the 83 Niners versus like the 76 or like 74 Steelers and shit like that. I think I would be nice if we can do something like that one day. Is create these old fights where we can actually take old fights, and like you see, take old fights and mix them together with two different fights, and allow the computer simulation to determine the victor. And that's what I would like to see with technology can catch up with that, and we'll get an opportunity to see some of these old fights that we never got.
Kelly, I don't mean to interrupt, but really quick, because we only have 4 people that voted. We got 22 people in the damn chat. Give me a 1 for Nunn. Give me a 2 for McCallum. Let's go ahead and do that, guys. You got about a minute to vote. It's in your hands, chat. So go ahead and give me your votes. I know you're thinking. I'm going to give you a minute. In a minute, I'm going to count to 10. But go ahead, continue, Kelly.
No, that was it, man. I was just hoping that I'm hoping that we can actually get that one day. I thought that was cool with what ESPN used to do. Pit teams from the 80s against teams from the 70s, teams from the 90s against teams from the 70s, and things of that nature. It would be cool to do that with boxing if we could do something like that. And I'm not sure how to do that yet, but I think if we could find a way to do that, I think it'll be kind of cool. That's all I'm saying.
Gotcha. And I'm going to go in the count of 10. It's tied in the chat. I will be the tiebreaker if the chat doesn't step up here. So maybe they don't know. Maybe it's that tough. Maybe they're like, I have no idea. So, tough fight. It's a tough fight. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Nunn won.
Where's the 1? Which one?
No, I said 9. Michael Nunn won.
Yeah, so Nunn is going to win it, guys. All right? So it is official now. Michael Nunn is yet to be second to somebody. So we're going to see how this goes, man. Let's go ahead and take a moment here. We have 2 big matchups. This next one is very, very interesting. I got to say that. I'm going to start with you, Stormy. All right, get the smoke, said Nunn. Hagler versus Roy Jones Jr., the marvelous one, against Roy. How do you see it, Stormy?
It's a tough fight early on for Hagler to be able to have to adjust to Roy Jones's quick hands and things like that. But Hagler would eventually get through to him, and like Kurt alluded to before, Jones didn't use technical ability; he used athletic ability, and Hagler was a technical fighter as well. He would use the jabs. He would work his way behind the jab and everything he did. And he would work his way to get to Jones inside. And Jones was not an inside fighter. And trying to be tough with Hagler would be the worst thing in the world from him, outside of running and looking very poor doing so. But I do believe it's a fight of attrition where Hagler just breaks Roy's will at the end of the day. And I think that Hagler beats him up. Roy may survive for a 12-round decision loss, or he may succumb to Hagler in the late rounds. But I got Hagler all day long.
All right. Hagler for Stormy, B-Man, Kelly.
Yeah, man, I got Roy. I got Roy Jones. Hagler's my guy, but I got Roy Jones Jr., man. I told you, I said, this dude was special, man. I completely disagree. Roy Jones' ability to dart around the ring if need be and pot shot Hagler from the outside. He would keep this fight in the center of the ring. If the fight ever did get on the ropes, Roy Jones would tie him up, force the referee to break it up, and then they end up right back on the outside. Right back in the middle of the ring again, where Roy Jones will continue to pot shot him, circle, throw lead left hooks, and also follow over overhand rights and mix in body shots and still be able to get on the outside. Still be able to get away and force Hagler to miss a ton of shots, even body shots. Roy Jones is just incredible, man. And I just want to say something. I understand how a lot of guys look at fighters and they like, okay, this guy's the most technically sound. Sometimes unorthodox, bro, is better because of the fact that you don't understand. You don't know what a fighter's going to throw. The fact that he's unorthodox can be an advantage. And when you have the athlete and the kind of attributes that Roy Jones has, and his unorthodox is actually a benefit. It gets guys who are used to seeing fighters fight a certain way. And I just think that's what separates Roy Jones Jr. from the rest of these dudes. Roy Jones Jr. By unanimous decision, and I think he wins fairly easily.
Man. So that's 10 for Cali, and of course Curtis had Hagler winning. That was, I'm sorry, that was Stormy. Curtis Anderson, how do you see it? Hagler versus Roy Jones.
In boxing, there's a saying, there's levels to this. Even though they never fought, I'm pretty good at breaking fighters down. I just got this vision, man, that I'm playing a fight in my head as I speak. It's weird. And Roy will have some success, but in the second half of a fight, when Marvin becomes aggressive, that's when the problems arose from Roy Jones, because Hagler changed his style. He was pure boxer in the 70's, fighting Benny Briscoes and the Willie Monroes and Bobby Boogaloo Watts. Then he changed, became an aggressive puncher boxer. I think the pressure of Marvin Hagler will get to Roy, because I seen Hagler do it on a high level, beating fighters like Tommy Hearns and Roberto Duran. What is Roy best win? Again, James Toney, Sweet Reggie Johnson. I like Roy a lot. He was very exciting, man. But this is my opinion. You're not going to beat guys like Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns with athletic ability alone and his style, with no jab, setting up punches. Roy threw wide left hooks. He can get away with that against Antoine Bird and Thomas Ice-T Tate. But Marvin Hagler is a different animal, man. Different animal. Had the best chin. Marvin one of the few fighters that can sell out and go for broke and depend on his chin. I think he beats Roy. Roy don't want to get knocked out. Hagler beats Roy by unanimous decision.
Ooh, all right. Battle rifle. How do you see it?
Wow, this is super tough, bro. Like, oh my god, like, how dare you, D style? But man, like I think of this fight, and when you say this is the best version of this guy, the best Hagler I can think of to fight Roy Jones is the one versus Tommy Hearns, because yeah, there are situations where a different fighter will show up. It happens to all the best. It happens to all the greats. Mike Tyson, Sugar Ray Robinson, Floyd Mayweather. Sometimes a different fighter shows up. And because Hagler was so offended by people just saying Tommy Hearns is just going to knock him out, he came in there like a bull, ready to knock him out in the first round. He got hurt, but he still eventually knocked Tommy Hearns out in the third round. So I'd say the best Marvin Hagler we can get is the one that literally, I think it would be a situation where he see Roy Jones as the type of guy, like a poster boy, kind of like Roberto Duran seeing Sugar Ray Leonard. He's a guy that has all the skills in the world, but they're trying to push him to be something he's not. And I think Hagler is he would have to be to the point where he just does not like Roy Jones' attitude, like at all. So I kind of see this is obviously a fight where it's going to be, if it's that Hagler that just does not like Roy Jones at all, like he just does not like him, which is the best Hagler you can get, it would be the simple fact that he would start slugging very early. I see this fight going to the ropes. The first round, kind of seemingly slugfest because Hagler just really wants to knock him out really. And I can see Roy Jones, pot shotting and getting off, grabbing Hagler to the back of the head and then getting off his best shots, his combinations. But the simple fact is, although Hagler was not going to be able to easily cut off the ring against Roy Jones was too fleet of foot. Hagler could cut off the ring, but sometimes he would switch stances and he would have to reset all over again. I think the simple fact is Roy Jones is going to have to win he's going to have to win the audience with his combinations. I think it's not going to be a simple fact that he can easily win the first round because Hagler just really wants to knock him out. So, of course, he would placate to the fact that Hagler needs to get tired. And in the 12th-round fight, I just don't. Man, Hagler's just a machine. I don't see him getting tired. So I think the simple fact is, once he tries to slug with Hagler's gonna, he's gonna block a little bit, but eventually he's gonna be like, okay, well, I can do this all day. I can slug. So eventually, once he starts slugging, I think he's gonna start losing points. It's gonna be to a point where you're just gonna hear Hagler, because every time Hagler makes the after he punches, it's going to convince the judges that he's landing more, even though Roy Jones is doing the quick combination. So I think it's going to be a Hagler tagging Roy once he gets tired. And Roy Jones has to hold a lot more than he usually wants to. And I think I'm going to give this. I think it's going to be a draw between Hagler and Roy Jones.
Okay, so you said Hagler over Jones?
No, a draw.
A draw. Well, we'll come back to you. Let's see here. Here's what I want to say. Callie, I hear you talking about Roy Jones' athleticism. Besides his athleticism, well, what else does he have over Hagler?
If you want to just talk about pure, as far as like pure skills, it's Hagler, man. But this is what I said. Sometimes that unorthodox style, man, benefits you. And when you throw in this superhuman athleticism on top of that with his unorthodox style, I think that it gives someone like Roy Jones the ability to beat someone like Hagler and these other dudes, because of the simple fact that you don't see what he's doing. You don't see what Roy Jones does every day. You don't know what kind of punch he's going to throw. You don't know what he's going to throw at all. You don't know what he's going to do. I think that's a benefit. I understand that we're so used to seeing. This is my point. Listen, we're so used to seeing guys, be orthodox and technical, and we know what they're going to do. But sometimes unorthodox beats, orthodox. Sometimes not knowing what a fighter's going to do helps you. And then when you have that kind of athletic ability on top of that, I think that can be a detriment to a fighter like Hagler, who's used to going up against Sugar Ray Leonard or Tommy Hearns, and you know what those guys are going to do. You've seen what they're going to do going through the amateurs. You have not seen what the hell Roy Jones is going to do going through the amateurs. That's what I'm talking about. But if you want to talk about as far as skill, come on, it's Hagler. But sometimes that doesn't matter. Sometimes that unorthodox style of not knowing what somebody's going to do is an advantage.
Here's what I'll say. All right. Hagler could fight Roy in multiple ways. So if Roy's getting the best of him on the outside, Hagler's going to come right at him. Right? And can Roy keep him off? I know, like the one thing you said, Callie, is, he's going to hold him and then the ref's going to break him up. Well, I mean, he's going to hold Hagler, and Hagler's just going to let himself get held like a Manny Pacquiao does and just wait for the ref to do something about it. Okay? Like, we're talking about a fighter that knows how to fight on the inside, and fighting on the inside and in the clinch is a lost art in boxing for the most part. All right? Hagler will know what to do for something very elementary, like he's trying to hold him. Like that'll be something he'll be able to handle. Like, it's not going to be as simple. He's just going to hold him and that's it. It just isn't going to be that simple. Like, he's going to use his elbows to push the arms away of Roy. Extend his arms out, and he's going to work the body on him. It's going to take Roy a lot of energy just to try and hold Hagler when he comes in. And I get it, man. Look, Roy was something special. Okay. in terms of natural ability. But I keep hearing, and AJ10's in the chat, all this talk about the unorthodox guys. Oh, unorthodox. Oh, but the thing about the unorthodox, if you make me a top 25 list of the best fighters of all time, there's maybe 2 or 3 unorthodox guys in there, really. All right.
I agree.
At the end of the day, like the orthodox way, more often than not, wins. Unorthodox fighters, okay, have a very short period of time, but once they're figured out and they're not so unorthodox, right, that's going to be problematic for them. It always is. You know, the Ricardo Mayorga is very unorthodox, and he gave Vernon Forrest some problems. But once people figured out, okay, this is what you got to do against a Ricardo Mayorga, it was a wrap for him, right? And I get the whole point. I get it. Like Roy Jones slowed down. He went down in weight after the Reese fight. Okay, but it did show us how limited his skills were compared to somebody like Hagler. And Hagler is good enough to exploit that, in my opinion. Right? But I do want to give you an opportunity to respond to that, Kelly.
Can you hear me? Can you hear
Yes.
me? Okay. I know Think don't want to say it. They're the one on mute all the time. But yeah, I completely understand that. I do. And like you said, most Orthodox fighters win. I agree with that as well. But Roy Jones is not every other unorthodox fighter. He's not. He has athletic ability, unlike we've really seen before, outside of Muhammad Ali, pre the layoff. That was the only other fighter that I seen with with the athleticism that even kind of replicated that. No one else has had that kind of athleticism, that kind of reflexes, man. That's different, man. It's just way different than what we're used to seeing. I don't know if we're gonna see anything like that, or at least in our lifetimes, see anything like what Roy Jones was. Roy Jones is the kind of athlete that could have played any sport and excelled at any sport. He's really just that kind of special athlete, man. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying his unorthodox style, right along with his athleticism, those attributes of the reflexes that he had at his peak, are something that you just haven't seen. And I think that carries him by fighters, even greats like Marvin Hagler. You can't discount how incredible his athleticism was. That allowed him to get away with things against the James Tonys of the world, Bernard Hopkins of the world. He was allowed to get away with it because of that. If he didn't have that, we would have never heard of Roy Jones, but he did. And that's the difference. And that's something that you cannot discount, because you cannot find too many other fighters with that kind of with those kind of attributes, period. In history, you're not going to find it. And that's where he stands alone right there. That's something else, man. You can't discount that. And that's something else that none of those dudes have seen. You just don't see that, man. You don't see what the hell Roy Jones was like. What the fuck was that? You don't see that. I don't know if you ever will again.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else to say before I put it out for a vote to the chat? Anybody else want to add something quick?
Okay, it might feel like I'm backtracking, but I think in the end I'm going to go with Roy Jones. And I had to think about it for a second, and now that I think about it, I think that Roy Jones, he just had the skills to fight that way. Like it was just so on a whole new level, because I've seen him fight Sugar Ray Leonard, and although he didn't fight the way that I think he was supposed to, because I think he was trying too hard to box with Leonard when the fight was early, which is why he gave up the first 4 rounds. He kind of compromised himself. So I think when I see Sugar Ray Leonard fighting that type of fight and have success by throwing those combinations that he normally does, I think Roy Jones would as well. It might not be that he's actually landing more punches, but to the judges, it's more eye-catching, because the simple fact that while Hagler is working his way in and taking shots to get inside, and although he might be landing more inside, Roy Jones looked like he's getting the better of Hagler, even if he's not completely landing. He's going to throw a shoe shine combinations, and and people are going to be like, oh, ooh, and same way with Sugar Ray Leonard and Hagler. That's why the fight was so difficult to score, is because although Sugar Ray Leonard
had really good success early. Once the fight got really competitive in the late rounds, and that was the point when Sugar Ray Leonard would take more rounds off and then end the match with a combination. So I think I would give it to Roy Jones.
Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and put this one up for a vote, guys. I did switch your vote here. I thought you had Roy Jones the whole time, and maybe I wrote it wrong here, but so
Nah, he had a draw. He had a draw first, remember?
that's right. Oh yeah, you had it in a draw. That's right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're gonna go with Roy Jones Jr. Slight lead right now for Hagler. Let's go ahead and put it for a vote. Listen really closely. Give me a 1 for Hagler. Give me a 2 for Roy Jones Jr. I'm going to tally this one up. If any of you want to add anything while I do that, go ahead, because I'm counting here.
Yeah, it's I mean, I like Roy, man, but the way he beat his opponents, I don't see that working on Leonard or Hagler. They just too like fighters like McCollum, Tony, and Hopkins. They're great. Fighters like Leonard, Hagler, and Hearns, even greater. Even greater. And they're special to the point where I have so much respect. They all fought each other, and not only as a fighter, but as men, they were built differently. Like Stormy said earlier, they will sell out. They sold out, Hearns and Hagler and Leonard and Duran, even though he's not there, I don't think. But those guys, that's why they call them the Four Kings. They was on such a level, man, that, I could talk about them all day, every day. Because they left nothing to be desired. They just went and got it. If they was behind on points or whatever, they can raise their level, man. Hagler and Hearns, that was his biggest victory, but that wasn't Hagler at his best. Hagler at his best was in the early days. He started in 73, like late 70s, late 70s. He was a technical boxer. Then he went in 80s. He became a puncher. And then he mixed it all up. And like D-Style said, he could fight a lot of ways, And those guys to me were just special. And I have Roy Jones like a level below them, but some people may disagree, because Roy Jones is sentimentally liked, or loved, should I say. And I just got the Hagler, Leonard, and Hearns, man. They just special. He's not going through them. He's not beating them.
All right, guys. So right now, everyone in the chat, give me a 1 for Hagler, 2 Roy Jones. I'm going to start counting to 10. Right now, Hagler's up by 2 points, 32 to 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll wait on the delay a little bit. But as of right now, guys, Hagler defeated Roy Jones Jr. in what I believe is an upset. But as far as public opinion, that's that. Okay, Hagler does get the win because I just waited on the delay and I don't see any other votes. Okay. So there's that. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to Hearns versus Michael Nunn. Thomas Hearns versus Michael Nunn. Battle Rifle starters with this fight. How do you see this one?
This is a Tommy Hearns, has amazing skills, and going up against a guy like Nunn, who's about the same height and who's a southpaw. Like I said, he wasn't really telling on his career with southpaws because he didn't fight very many, or at least many at the top level that were available. So when I look at Tommy Hearns, I'm sitting here like trying to picture like what what does he bring to the table against Michael Nunn? Yeah, he obviously has the power. He probably has the speed too, even though Michael Nunn was pretty fast as well. It's just that he's not as light on his feet as Nunn. So I kind of have to sit here and like really, really analyze this fight and try to really look at the resume and say who replaces who with whom. And you can't really do that with much people. I mean, even with Nunn, his best wins, most of his best wins, you can't really look at a Tommy Hearns and say I can replace it with Tommy Hearns. I can't really do that. So honestly, it's such a tough matchup. I think definitely Hearns has the advantage in power, but Nunn could also knock people out. He just had such good combination punches that he usually overwhelmed his opponents. If you look at the fight when he fought Donald Curry, Donald Curry was, giving him a tough fight. He's super crafty. The guy knows how to get inside and how to effectively does it, but eventually he ended up knocking him out because his combination puncher was just way too much. So honestly, I'm looking at the fight. This is a tough one. I think because I've seen more from Michael Nunn, I'm going to give it to him because he actually fought consistently at 160 and beat more of the top guys compared to Tommy Hearns. Tommy Hearns, his best wins at 160. Beating James Schuler, and I can't really think of anybody else at the top of my head, honestly. So I don't think Tommy Hearns was the person Nunn was at middleweight. So I kind of see Nunn winning this. I mean, I do think he would be timid for the simple fact that Tommy Hearns is his height, and he has never really fought anybody of equal height as himself. But I think I'm gonna give this a Nunn just because he's more seasoned at the weight than Tommy Hearns.
Okay. Stormy, B Man, Nunn, or Hearns? How do you see it?
Oh, I thought you'd never ask. This fight here is going to be a very good boxing match for a couple of rounds. And then Nunn's speed is going to take over. He's going to be able to hit Tommy Hearns with some punches that Hearns won't even see. And that's not something that Hearns is accustomed to because, one, Nunn is a southpaw. Two, Nunn's hand speed at that time was phenomenal. And though he could probably daze Tommy and everything, I don't think it would be anything of a knockout nature. But Hearns had very good feints, though. That's the only way he could try to stop Nunn's hand speed being a huge factor. But I do believe that Nunn would be able to outbox Tommy. He was the young upstart coming when they were supposed to fight back then, and Hearns totally shied away from him. So I think that this would be Nunn's coming out party, and he would get the best of Hearns either in a unanimous decision or a majority decision.
Okay. Right. And let's go with Curtis. Kurt Sugar, how do you see this fight?
Well, I have it the opposite. I got Hearns knocking out Michael Nunn. Hearns have very good head feints. And when you look at Hearns at middleweight, look at the best Nunn fight at middleweight, and you look at the best Hearns fight at middleweight, when he fought a guy by the name of James Black and Gold Schuler, he was undefeated, and a lot of people thought that Schuler was going to knock out Hearns, and Hearns knocked him out in the first round. That was on the undercard of Hagler Mugabe. Hearns had a terrific left hook to the body. Hearns had a stinging cobra-like jab. Michael Nunn was a southpaw, and how do you beat a southpaw? With a straight right hand. And who has a better straight right hand in the business than Tommy Hearns? You know, and like I said, Michael Nunn is a good fighter, but there's levels to this game. I just like Tommy's style. I always thought Michael Nunn had a mental lapse. It cost him his title against James Toney. Hearns is a A+ fighter. He's not B or C. He's an all-time great. Like I said, I just got so much respect for Tommy Hearns, you know, looking at him so closely. I like Hearns to knock out Michael Nunn in 8 rounds. I think that right hand is going to land. Tommy had a savvy way of delivering the right hand. He hid his punches, something Deontay Wilder should look at. He hid his right hand with a jab, left hook, and Hearns can box. Hearns, I know Michael Nunn was fast and threw combinations, but Hearns' jab would nullify that. Timing beat speed, and Hearns had excellent timing, but he had an excellent jab. He had a flicker jab. He had all kinds of jabs. Saying all that, I like Hearns to beat Michael Nunn. I just think he's a better fighter, and I just think that, you know, his straight right hand against the southpaw will work.
All right, seen and unseen. I appreciate the sports that Roy Jones Jr. was supposed to win the whole first seed. I agree with your first sentiments. D-style boxing. I appreciate the support. Cali Enigma, it's a big vote for you here. Hearns or Nunn? How do you see it?
Man, this is really tough. I was getting ready to totally go on Michael Nunn, and then Kurt kind of got me to think about it. And man, God, that is, oh man. Now I'm gonna stick with my original pick. I think Michael Nunn's speed would cause Tommy Hearns problems. And I think that he would eventually catch Tommy Hearns and lay him out, actually. As much as I like Tommy Hearns, that was his flaw. His flaw was his chin, man. It just, can you imagine if Tommy Hearns had Marvin Hagler's chin? I mean, it's great. And we're talking about, I'm saying this about a dude who's an all-time great. If he had Marvin Hagler's chin, he probably would have never lost. Or at least maybe he wouldn't have lost. He probably, some of those fights that he lost, probably would have won. Yeah, I think Michael Nunn. I think Michael Nunn's pure speed, athleticism, and technical ability, and it's not like Hearns is technically flawed, not at all. But I just think that his skill set is tailor made for Tommy Hearns, and I just think that he'll be able to set up Hearns. He'll be able to catch Hearns on the front foot and be able to catch him and drop him and connect to the chin, man, and knock him out. That's what I think. Because that turn, when Tommy Hearns at times would be really, he will be front foot heavy, especially when he's following up with that right hand, man. And that's an opportunity to counter him. And I think that Michael Nunn's speed and his ability would actually be able to get on the inside and actually lay him out. That's just my opinion.
Okay, once again, who do you have winning, Kelly? My thing cut off for a little bit. Who do you have winning?
Oh, I said Michael Nunn by knockout, man.
Michael Nunn by knockout. Okay, man. Curtis brings up a really good point about the right hand against the southpaw, and man, I can't get over how hard Thomas Hearns can hit with that right hand. To me, this is a tough fight, but I am going to have to agree. I think Hearns wins this one by knockout. But right now, as we speak, Nunn has the lead. We're going to go ahead and put this up for the chat. I see a couple people left after Roy Jones got voted out. It's all right. Shout out to the Kelly Enigma. Just showing support of my friend D-Style Boxing. Man, this is fun, especially with Kurt, Stormy, Chief, Fucking Battle Rifle. I so hate Sugar Leonard, Jake Cutter. All right, man. Thank you for that support.
D-Style, he really did turn out to be what I just called him, a Jake Cutter. That dude is a definite raccoon, bro. it's unfortunate Sugar Ray Leonard turned into that, but that's what he turned into, bro. It's disgusting, but that's a whole nother subject.
All right, so right
Can
now,
I say something, D-Style?
yes, go ahead.
I just want to say about Tommy Hearns, because sometimes people forget. Let me just real quick go over his career. He beats Pepino Cuevas in devastating fashion. Now, for those who don't know Pepino Cuevas, these styles could tell you he used to break jaws and ribs. He was a vicious puncher. He beats him at 147 pounds, right? Becomes world champion.
Yep.
Then he outboxes Wilfredo Benitez with a broken hand. Wilfredo Benitez is a boxing master. That was at 154, right? He goes up to 175 and beat Dennis Andrews for the light heavyweight title. He drops back down 15 pounds and he beats the tough Juan Domingo Rodin. Then he beats James the Heat Kitchen for the 168 first WBO title. Then he goes up to light heavyweight and outboxes Virgil Hill, way beyond his prime. Then he goes up in cruiserweights and knocks out some B and C level people. This is a welterweight. That's how special Tommy Hearns was.
Yeah, man, and Duran got sparked too. But right now we're gonna put this for a vote, guys. Give me a 1 for Thomas Hearns. Give me a 2 for Michael Nunn. Let's see your votes there. And
after this, can I ask a question, if you don't mind? After this, when you're done,
go ahead. They're putting in the votes. Go ahead, Kelly.
I just wanted to ask everybody on the panel: do you think that we can say that? I think that Tommy Hearns' right hand power is not too far behind what Julian Jackson was doing, bro. I mean, am I crazy to think that? Because I think his right hand was pretty fucking murderous, man. I'm talking about Tommy Hearns, man. That dude's right hand was just pretty vicious and very destructive. I know we talk about Julian Jackson and he with especially a lot of power with his hooks, but I'm thinking Tommy Hearns' right hand maybe not too far behind him. Just thoughts to everybody on the panel.
Honestly, I think even though Julian Jackson hits really hard, he was one of those guys that can actually move up the middleweight and not actually seem like his power detrimented him in any way, shape, or form possible. But that was also the exact same thing with Tommy Hearns. He is the number one hardest puncher in welterweight history, arguably the hardest puncher in junior middleweight history. And then on top of that, he's arguably the hardest puncher in middleweight history. So the guy is just ridiculous. I don't know what the heck Tommy Hearns, like, I remember, having this talk, but it's just so weird. He's had so many one-punch knockouts where he literally hits a guy with his wrist and the guy's out complete cold. When he fought Juan Domingo Rodin, and Juan Domingo Rodin made it very obvious that he was going to slug, he literally threw a shot at his head, and then Juan Domingo Rodin fell flat on his face. And then I think a couple rounds later, he threw a shot to his head, and I think he misguided it. So he hit him like at the very, very top of his head, and he still was out cold. So it was just like, I think he just hits way harder than Julian Jackson. Julian Jackson hits very hard. Don't get me wrong, the shots you don't see usually knock you out, but that doesn't seem to be the case with Tommy Hearns. If people see his shots coming, they still get knocked out. I think Julian Jackson is just, I think if you were to put like it on a scale in comparison to middleweight, I think you can put his at 8 and Tommy Hearns is a 10. So yeah, you could probably say not far off, but I think it's still 2 levels above.
Really quick, guys. So right now it's 30-30. So go ahead at 1 for Hearns, 2 for Nunn. The chat has to make up the difference as one less panel member voted for, for Hearns. So
it's tied right now.
It is tied. So
okay, I'll break the tie. I'll switch just to break the tie.
You're gonna switch?
I'll switch just to break the tie.
Sort of rematches voted too, a little.
So I'll switch. I'll switch.
It's
I'll
such a
switch to break the tie.
Hey, you're gonna switch
and-
like that, Kelly.
Just to
and
break the
Kurt-
tie. Break the tie. Why not? Give it to Hearns.
And Kurt, just to say, like I really know how good Hearns is. I think if you look at almost any fight he has fought, nobody has ever outboxed Tommy Hearns. It's just it just never happened, really. But as far as his relative prime, even in his really late prime, nobody really outboxed Hearns. It's just a simple fact that I just haven't seen him against southpaws. I just haven't seen him really against any top level ones. It just
But I
wasn't
want to know about Kurt and Stormy B Man's opinion on this too, and yours too, D Style. What you guys thought about Julius Jackson, his power versus Hearns?
Hearns is the hardest puncher I've ever seen single-handedly. His right hand is the most destructive punch in boxing history. And I've been watching boxing for 46 years. You gotta put into effect who he knocked out. A lot of fighters, they knock out C-level competition, but Hearns knocked out the great Manos Di Pietro, Roberto Duran, Pepino Cuevas, James Schuler, people like that, man. Dennis Andrews, he was knocking out champions. Bruce Curry was a good fighter who once had Roberto Benitez on the deck 3 times. A lot of people don't know these fighters, but Hearns, it was a devastating puncher. The fighter with great feints, and he can hide his right hand, man. So I'll give it to Hearns. Hearns' power was unreal. My father used to be like, he hits like a mule. He hits like a mule kick. My father always said that about Hearns, And when somebody got knocked out, we was watching the Hearns fight, Hearns knocked them cold as a milkshake. That was my father's favorite phrase, when a fighter got knocked out. But who does that to Roberto Duran? Duran had a chin of steel, man. Nobody does that to Roberto Duran. You're knocking out A-level competition.
You said he sleeps Canelo then?
Yeah, nobody can take Tommy Hearns' right hand. He hit you 8 with it around the chin. Nobody could take that punch.
Unless your name is Iran Barkley.
Yeah, well, he was almost knocked out with left hooks, man, and he caught lightning in a bottle. Hearns was hitting him with hooks to the body, had both eyes cut, and he had his head down and just found Tommy's chin. That fight is hard to look at, man, because I was like, Emmanuel Stewart was crying, hugging Tommy, but Tommy didn't have a chin like Leonard Hagler, but Hearns was a hell of a fighter, man. He was a hell of a fighter. I love Tommy Hearns.
You think he was
I was gonna say Stormy B Man. Get Stormy B Man's answer, and then
go ahead.
I want to ask what Stormy B Man thought, and then you too, D Style.
Go ahead, Stormy.
Julian Jackson and Kurt basically took all the thunder out of this conversation. And that's not a bad thing. What I'm saying is he made all the points. They're valid. There are not many I can come behind that because I had the same sentiments. Julian Jackson, the best opponent that he ever fought was probably a toss-up between Gerald McClellan and Mike McCallum. And he got stopped by both of those guys. So when you look at who he was knocking out with his power, as Kurt just said about how Tommy was knocking out world champion and world-class fighters, not B-class opponents and stuff like that, then that's where you have to give all that credit to Tommy Hearns. The other aspect of it was Julian Jackson was a fighter that when he got up to the top level of opposition, like McCallum and G-Man, he was exposed for his limitations. He threw everything very hard. If Terry Norris was as disciplined as he was supposed to be, he should have beat Julian Jackson. But that lackadaisical approach that he had, because he was doing good work, he got caught and he got stopped immediately. And it taught him a lesson because he fought.
Oh, you can't keep blaming that on Abel Sanchez, Callie.
Yes, you can.
Hold on, let's Stormy finish. Hold on, let me see.
Let's Stormy finish, guys. Go ahead.
I'm done, bro.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right, but let's go ahead. Like man, there's no way for me to know, like really, but I would have to go with Hearns, especially with the explanation given by Curtis Anderson. You know what I mean? But that's not to diminish how hard Julian Jackson fucking hit. I mean, both can knock dudes spark out or they land flush. You know, but I would have to side with Hearns. And speaking of Hearns, we are now in the final, which is a fight that actually happened. But here's what I want to add. The caveat I want to add is the following, right? If this fight were to happen 10 times, who would win most of those fights? Like, would Hagler really knock him out in the third round every single time? You know, because we've seen the fight over and over again. But if there were to rematch, I guess that's what the scenario we have. Is there any version of Hearns at middleweight that could defeat the best version of Hagler at any point? But let's start with Curtis Anderson. How do you see this one, man?
Terrible matchup for Hearns because it will be a fight of attrition. Hagler will turn his fight into a dog fight like he did April 15, 1985, man. And Hearns can't win that kind of fight. That's his Achilles heel. Because when you look outside of Barkley, Hearns took a lot of punches. You look at the second Iran Barkley fight when his nose was smashed in, he lost the split decision. Man, that was a hell of a fight. You know, and you look at the Rodin, he got hurt. When you turn it into a dog fight with Hearns, then you can get him. You have to be an aggressive fighter, and Hagler knows that. That's why he came out like that. And it's a terrible matchup for Hearns. If they fought a rematch, both at their best at middleweight, Hagler would knock out Hearns again in 5 rounds because Hearns didn't have no legs. You don't massage a fighter's legs before the fight. You never relax the leg muscles. Your legs ain't going to work properly. That's why he was awkward. But Hagler is a terrible matchup for Hearns. They fought 10 times. Hagler will win 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. It's just the way it is, man. Hearns can't win those kind of fights. You've seen it over and over again. I like Marvin Hagler, TKO over Hearns in 5 rounds, man.
Whew. All right, Stormy B-Man. Any different scenario for you?
No, it's the same result. Hearns loses to Hagler.
All right. Battle rifle.
I agree 100%. He would likely win the majority of those fights, 10 out of 10.
Oh, okay. Cali Enigma.
Yes, it's unanimous, man. Hagler, too rough for Hearns on the inside. To get on the inside, line up uppercuts, work the body, go back upstairs, and eventually land right on that chin again and get him up out of there, man. I just don't see that fight going. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he stopped him in the first round, man. Yeah, to be honest with you, in one of those fights, they fought 10 times. He'd get him out of there in the first round at least a couple times, in my opinion. And I don't think they would ever go past the 7th round if they fought 10 times. Bad stylistic matchup.
I agree. Very bad stylistic matchup for Hearns. I mean, what a shame, bro. He got through some tough ones and he just ran into Hagler in the end. But the final of this bracket, but yeah, it's since the first round, probably the easiest one to call. So outside of her, I mean, Hearns had the right hand, so anything can happen. Out of 10 fights, maybe catch Hagler one time, but I think Hagler wins. Hagler wins it, and Hagler fought 2 dudes that he had already fought. Okay, in this brackets, but he will advance. The winner of tomorrow's brackets will face Hagler in the final. So make sure you guys tune into that one on Sunday. They're going a little earlier. It is Mother's Day, so I'll keep you guys in the panel, you know, a little more. Tomorrow I'll let you know the exact time, but it's around the same time as last week. And just got plans for Mother's Day and stuff for the mom and all that. So
happy Mother's Day to all you guys moms, man. Just want to throw that out there. Happy Mother's Day to you guys moms, man. And of course to my mama too, man. My mom's the best.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day to you as well.
Yeah, man. I want to go ahead and just Stormy, give us Kelly, give us some final thoughts.
Oh man, like I said, this is fun, man. I enjoy these things, man. This actually helps. This is helping get through the tough times going on right now. I just want to say, R.I.P. to Andre Harrell, R.I.P. to Little Richard. You know, what I'm saying, two brothers that passed away last couple of days. Also, R.I.P. to Ahmaud Arbery, R.I.P. to the young brother Sean Reed, and to the I'm sorry, I can't think of the other brother's name who was murdered on Monday too, man, in Minnesota, man. Rest in peace to them brothers, man. Three brothers were lynched. Two this week, and the record Ahmad in February, man. But yeah, this is phenomenal, man. Salute to the great fighters of the past, man. And unfortunately, you new fighters of today, you guys need to fight each other, man. For us to really even show you, I mean, I don't think you guys are that good at anyway. But it would be nice if you guys all fought each other. I'm talking about you fucking middleweights, or at least meet up at super middleweight or something. But we need to see all of you dudes. You guys are all in your prime. We want to see it. I know it's not necessarily, um, you know, one guy's fault or one other guy's fault, whatever it is. But you guys need to figure this out, and you boxers need to get together. And you need to fight, and we need to see Jamal Charlo and Canelo. We need to see Jamal Charlo and Demetrius Andrade to Canelo, and maybe Danny Jacobs. I don't give a damn where you meet. If you guys all go up to 168, then you maybe get Caleb Plant and David Benavidez, and let's just find out who the best is. So yeah, how about those three that I just? How about Andrade and Charlo move up to 168, and let's get that tournament going, and let's see who the best is at 168, man. Because that division going to be monstrous, especially if Beaver move down. Ooh, I don't think he's that great, to be honest with you. But let's see it. Let's see a tournament at 168 with the guys that I name. Even Danny Jacobs is there. Let's see it. Let's see the best. Let's find out who the best at 168 is, so we can actually, have somewhat of a golden era at least at 168. We have the potential of that. Unfortunately, too much politics gets in the way. But that division could be special if the two fighters that I just mentioned moved up, and we got that fight there as well. And of course, if Beaver moved into that division too. Thanks, man. Thanks for letting me do this, man.
Definitely, man. Thank you for coming on, Kelly. I appreciate it. And Battle Rifle, give us your final thoughts, bro.
Yeah, it was, we, the world, families lost a lot of, relatives, this weekend. And, I just want to say, rest in peace to them. If anybody else in the world, lost people, around the world, I'm sorry to hear, it's been some hard times. People can't attend the funerals. I lost my grandma like 2 months ago. And, it was hard because I couldn't see her in the last dying moments. It wouldn't allow me. My auntie was going to stay by her side no matter what. And they only allowed like one person per day because, this epidemic. So, it's sorry to hear about what's going on with a lot of people, this epidemic, but hopefully it gets better for people. It was a good talk. I love these. Invite me for the next one. I'll be excited to come back.
Well, Steph, we're going to do the final tomorrow. It should be around 8 p.m. Eastern time, more or less around that time, give or take 30 minutes, more or less. But thank you for coming on, man. And I'm very sorry to hear about the news about your grandmother. May she rest in peace.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Definitely. Curtis Anderson, give us your final thoughts, man, and on Hagler winning it.
Yes, sir. Great tournament, man. Is great. You come up with these fantasy matchups, man. You got to do featherweights, and it's great, man. The old fighters, the young fighters mixing it up. It's just a big gap between the old fighters and the new fighters. The old fighters were that much better. I have to give homage to the old fighters, man, being a historic kind of guy and watching these guys. You can't forget about them. I was on the phone with Tim Witherspoon today, me, Stormy, and Trick Nolte, and we was talking to Tim Witherspoon, man, and he was telling us that the WBC gave the old fighters some money. So that was good news. Happy Mother's Day to all you guys' mothers. Unfortunately, I lost my mother about 3.5 years ago. But people lie. They say it will get better over time. I was a proud mama's boy, man. I love my mother Juanita, man, and love her to death, man. Miss her every day. It doesn't get better, So, these times are tough. Birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Mother's Day, man. It's just you don't know the pain until you lose your mother. And all you guys who have mothers, man, tell them don't wait till Mother's Day to give them flowers and gifts, man. Tell your mother you love them every day. Because I was like really, really close to my mother. My father's gone, mother's gone, grandmother's gone, grandfather's gone. It's really tough, man. When you have family, ain't nothing more precious than that, man. So you nurture that, and you respect it, man. But great job by the panel. Thank you, chat, man, and great job, D Style, man. You got a heck of a channel, man. I appreciate being on. I'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely. I want to thank everybody that came on. And Stormy B, man, shout out to you. I appreciate your time and thoughts on this. And Hagler wins the first bracket. All right. And he will face the winner of tomorrow's bracket. And we got names like Monzone on there and some others. So it's going to be something. This is D-Style Boxing. Make sure you guys keep it boxing. And I'm out of here. Peace.